This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome everyone to a wonderful Wednesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Michael Remis here in the host chair for the vacationing Hustler. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll be live at FanFest. You know, it's not FanFest. FanFest Saturday. We'll be live at training camp tomorrow. Kicks off 9:30 a.m. The first group skating. I don't want to say feels like Christmas, but it feels like a very exciting day where all the talk that we've had throughout the summer leading up, we're going to finally have many questions that we've been discussing here for months on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Not answered, but maybe some little nuggets of information. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they're practicing today ahead of Saturday afternoon's game in Ottawa. We have some clips later on from Chris Trevler and Mike O'Shea from yesterday. Connor Hrabchak, he's going to join me in a second here. But I do want to give a shout out to the sponsors: HSC Home Lottery, Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Fans First, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend, Assiniboia Downs, and Coolbet. And other content, if you missed it this week, we have Connor's WST Sunday Live, the Blue Bombers report, reaction from the loss to Hamilton, and CFL 110 debuted after the show yesterday. It is on this podcast feed. There is a CFL 110 podcast feed. It comes out a bit earlier on there. Search for that one and subscribe. And here you got a great, and hey, we do have a great show lined up today. A number of guests coming on. Shayna Goldman of The Athletic. The Athletic's got their player tiers out. They're not exactly rankings. They didn't rank them by number, but they put them in tiers. You got the MVP tier, the top guys, the franchise player tier, superstar tier, all-star tier. And it wasn't just putting players into a spreadsheet and spitting out a ranking. They did that, but then they refined that list with conversations with executives, coaches, former players. So that was a really interesting read, and interesting to see where the Jets land on that tier and how that may predict what's coming up this season. Drew Mindell of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. They're back 9 a.m. on Saturdays here on YouTube and podcast as well. We'll be seeing them at FanFest on Saturday, kick off the season. Had to ask Drew what he thought about the upcoming training camp and also the Bombers. Drew, very passionate about the Blue Bombers, very knowledgeable, so I had to ask him, is it time to panic? And is this a must-win on Saturday for the Blue and Gold? And Team Canada Rugby at the Rugby Women's World Cup, Emily Tuttosi from Souris, Manitoba is there. Canada taking on New Zealand on Friday at 1 p.m. So Friday's show, we will be scoreboard watching that game. That's a semifinal. Canada with a chance to advance to the final, which would be Saturday. And she was named player of the match against Scotland. And Canada is just ripping through everyone in that tournament. So I'm excited to welcome her. And a little football talk. Haven't done much NFL. Thomas Tipple, he lives in Winnipeg working for Fantasy Points. A lot of quarterbacks being ruled out with injury this week. So I'll be talking with him about a lot of the quarterback changes and standout players over the first 2 weeks. And if we should start panicking about some of these rookies who haven't performed, two of them we saw on Monday Night Football. But let's bring him in. It's the day after the birthday boy. Connor Hrabchak. Connor, what's going on? How was your evening last night?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was a nice night. Had a nice dinner. Was able to get home in time to catch the end of the Jays game as well. So that was great. And yeah, here we are, training camp eve. All the time we spent in the offseason talking about Kyle Connor's contract and training camp battles and all of these things. It's finally here tomorrow. We're going to be there at Hockey for All Center. I can't wait for this weekend ahead and to be talking Jets and actual Jets news. And Remis, I know you're fired up for line combinations tomorrow. And we'll get the groupings today, I'm assuming. But happy training camp eve to all who celebrate.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Be there. The line rushes, training camps. We're waiting on the groups. I thought the Jets were going to be sending them out just right at 1 o'clock when we started, but they have not. They have not sent those out yet. We'll be dissecting the groups as they are released and trying to speculate on who is going to be paired with who. We did have some Jets news today. It was the broadcast schedule. The Jets announcing TSN will be carrying 4 Jets preseason games. The other 2 will be available at winnipegjets.com, similar to how the prospects game was. And so 4 preseason, 60 regular season on TSN, and the remaining 22, there will be 4 times on Amazon Prime Monday Night Hockey, 13 times on Hockey Night in Canada, 5 times on Sportsnet Wednesday Night Hockey. So you will be covered. It is Dan and Kevin. Pumped to see them. They're both arriving in Winnipeg. I don't know, it was yesterday or today. And we'll be at training camp. So, and of course, CJOB and Power 97 will have the radio broadcast with Paul Edmonds and Mitch Clinton. So very excited to have the full broadcast schedule. I will say Amazon, so if you're not on Prime, you're going to want to subscribe to Prime in December because, well, I mean, you have Boxing Day, but also the 3 Jets games on Prime with the one other one in April. But we do have the broadcast schedule. That was the Jets news of the day.
Yes. And I do love that you gave a shout out there to the timing of those Amazon games because 3 of them come in December. I believe it's the first 3 Mondays in December as well for the Jets in their Amazon Prime games. So yeah, 60 games hearing Dan Robertson on TSN. That's where the majority of the games have been for the past number of years. All the games are on the radio with Paul Edmonds and Mitch Clinton. And then, 13 times on Hockey Night in Canada. That's fun. I mean, Hockey Night in Canada games are always fun going up against Canadian opponents. Sometimes the Leafs on Saturday night, sometimes the Canucks if it's super late at night. But Hockey Night in Canada games are always the best to watch, in my opinion, on a Saturday night. And then 5 games on Rogers Wednesday Night Hockey. So an interesting broadcast schedule. I mean, no real surprises there, but definitely worth mentioning as we get into the season here.
Yeah, in a world where you need a lot of the different streaming services, majority of them on TSN, and I think people do appreciate Dan and Kevin's coverage, and whenever else they're talking TSN. The Jets were a topic on TSN yesterday, Connor. Kyle Connor's contract. I don't know if that's the number one Jets story we are following, but it's certainly on the back burner. Darren Dreger was on Insider Trading yesterday, and they're talking about McDavid's status and the number of players, Kaprizov making headlines for entering this year in the final year of their contract. But here's what Darren Dreger had to say about Kyle Connor entering the final year of his deal and if negotiations are taking place.
Yeah, just a continued open line of communication, man. Talk about high level, high status players in this initial edition of Insider Trading, and Kyle Connor deserves a spot in this conversation. I don't think that there's any doubt that the Winnipeg Jets have put a priority on extending Kyle Connor for as long as they can. That's just the reality of the situation. And I don't doubt for a second that they will extend Kyle Connor because he's been such a key piece of this organization's past, present, and undoubtedly the future. There's no timeline on this, but again, lines of communications are completely open as Connor goes into a final year of a 7-year, almost $50 million deal. And based on years of production, I think it's a safe assumption that Kyle Connor has earned a decent raise.
there's Darren Dreger yesterday on Insider Trading saying Kyle Connor has earned a raise. Lines of communication are open, and he's going to be a big part of the Winnipeg Jets past, present, and future. And we've said this for a while, but it does feel much different this player entering the final year of their deal than we had with Connor Hellebuyck, where they're writing, oh, that ship has sailed on him re-signing with the Jets, and just the state of the team at the time. And Nikolai Ehlers, I don't recall, any open lines of communication there, really. It seems like we're headed for a contract extension at some point with the Jets and Kyle Connor. Oh, 1 sec.
The weekend.
Start again.
Yeah, and with training camp starting tomorrow and heading into the weekend and all of those things, it's going to be really interesting to see when this contract comes. I don't think any of us would be shocked if Kyle Connor extended long-term with the Winnipeg Jets. Everything we've heard, and this report from Darren Dreger falls under that same umbrella. Both of these teams, or the team and the player, both sides of this negotiation want a deal. And I don't think anyone should be shocked or will be shocked if that comes in the first couple of days of training camp or throughout training camp. Obviously, we've all listed our panic points on when to start stressing, but a good sign for the Winnipeg Jets that it looks like negotiations are happening. Communication lines are open, as Darren Dreger said, and hopefully we get a deal soon here into training camp with Kyle Connor, 1 year away from pending UFA. The news of the hockey day today, Remo, was Oilers fans panicking over Connor McDavid because a 32 Thoughts was released this morning where Elliot Friedman and Kyle Bukauskas interviewed McDavid. And he, was very focused on this season and competing in 2025-26, and even had a quote in there, "We'll see beyond that," or something like that. So here in Winnipeg, we aren't nearly as stressed about Kyle Connor as Oilers fans seem to be online about Connor McDavid after his latest media outing this morning.
Yeah, Connor McDavid, for him, he wants to be paid like the top player in the league. But I think most importantly, he's going to get that wherever he goes. He wants a chance to win. Losing back-to-back Stanley Cups, one in a Game 7 after battling back down 3-0, one in a Game 6. This is something that we're going to be focused on here. The best player in the world, could he possibly change teams? And if you're Edmonton, I mean, he is the reason why they have been so successful. I know they have Draisaitl as well, who's an MVP franchise player of his own, but Connor McDavid, what a talent he is, and to lose him, it would be devastating. I think they would be still pretty good if they were missing him, but if you're Connor McDavid, I think you would be looking at all things. Where do I have the best chance to win? Is it in Edmonton? They've gone to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. Maybe it is for this year, but there might be some concerns there about beyond. Is there concerns about the way they've managed their team? I think their offseason last year turned out to be, I don't say disastrous, but losing Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg seemed like a big miss, and signing veteran players like Arvidsson and Skinner when they had some players there. So I guess that's something we're going to be following. Maybe not as closely as people in Toronto. I think Maple Leafs fans feel like McDavid is destined to sign there. And when it's free agent watch here in Winnipeg, it's exciting. But as we know, Winnipeg not exactly the top destination on many UFA players' list.
Yeah, the Jets should be in on the Connor McDavid sweepstakes if it ever comes to that. Will Connor McDavid be in on the Winnipeg Jets? Probably not. I think that's goes without saying. But the Connor McDavid thing, this whole time, every time he's been asked about it, whether it's at Team Canada orientation camp or on 32 Thoughts, he starts by saying, "I'm going to take my time with this decision. I'm going to take my time. My family's going to talk about it. This is a big decision." On 32 Thoughts this morning, he said, "I've worked my whole life to get this opportunity, to have this option." I mean, if I'm an Oilers fan, I'm panicking big time right now because camps open today or across like half the league, and for the Winnipeg Jets and some Canadian markets, it opens tomorrow. How much longer is Connor McDavid going to take with this decision? Can you lose a guy like Connor McDavid for nothing? I don't think so. And if he's not re-signing with the Edmonton Oilers, do the Oilers keep him through this year and just kind of let him pitch him their best offer in the offseason kind of thing? I still think Connor McDavid ends up signing with the Edmonton Oilers, whether it's a 3-year extension, even like a 2-year extension or an 8-year extension. I still think his next deal is with Edmonton. But today was the first time that I've listened to Connor McDavid and thought to myself, wow, he might actually leave. He might actually leave. And we'll see. Again, it's September 17th. There's a lot of time for them and the Oilers to get things figured out and get a contract of some kind beyond this season. But Connor McDavid seems very, very focused on this year. He's relishing at the opportunity. He doesn't get this opportunity again in his career at this prime age to cash in on a big contract. So I don't know. Edmonton is panicking, and rightfully so, I think. I think today was the first time that I thought to myself, wow, he might actually leave. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, as far as trading him, I think the best, you're trying to win. The best chance for them to win is with him. So I think if you trade him, you're throwing in the towel. And when you just went to back-to-back seasons, I know you want to say, oh, you can't let a guy leave, but you're trying to win. So I think you got to let it play out. Try to give her on this season and then reevaluate. Yeah, maybe you'd have to listen to offers if there's something that could help you win now and, sign another player long-term, a superstar type player. But that's something I think you'd have to listen, but I think you'd have to be okay with the fact that he's going to leave for nothing. As far as the Jets and Kyle Connor, if that got to that situation, I think it would be tough for the Jets. I think that's kind of different. You've already had Nikolai Ehlers leave. I think you would have to at least listen or try very aggressively to get this deal done with Kyle Connor. It would be a big loss for the Jets if he left. I know there's people in chat saying, well, if you don't know by day one of the season, then you'd have to look at trading him. I do think the Jets are built to win. They need him. But it would be such a blow to lose two players. I don't think they would be able to recover from losing a guy who was just top 10 in the league in scoring.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Remo. I mean, the Oilers and Jets are in such different scenarios, and McDavid and Connor are such different players too. In terms of the Connor McDavid's the best player in the world, and Kyle Connor isn't. He's a very talented winger, one of the best left wingers in the league, maybe top 10, but he's not Connor McDavid. And the Oilers have been to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals and a game away 2 years ago, and all of these things. I just don't see that being the outcome for the Winnipeg Jets. And you bring up the loss of Nikolai Ehlers last year, to lose Kyle Connor again, or to undergo that again back-to-back seasons and lose Kyle Connor for nothing. In the middle of Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck's prime years, they signed these big contracts. Kevin Cheveldayoff promised them a competitive team year after year. When they signed those deals, we're going to compete every year. That was part of the sales pitch to Scheifele and Hellebuyck to sign those matching deals, to let Kyle Connor walk for nothing when he's at a prime age, coming off of a 90-plus point season with 40-plus goals would be a devastating blow for the Jets. So we don't need to have that talk until we get to that point where we're maybe a week into the season and Kyle Connor's still unsigned, where you'd have to look at potentially trading him to recoup some of those assets. Because I agree with you, you can't have another Nikolai Ehlers situation here where Kyle Connor reaches UFA and you're kind of left holding the bag as he goes elsewhere.
It's kind of funny. There's a comment here from B. Henderson saying McDavid's best chance to win a cup is here in Winnipeg. And you think, well, what has been the Oilers' problem in the playoffs the last couple of years? Goaltending. Which team has the best goalie? Winnipeg. Winnipeg does.
It's a heck of a sales
nicely
pitch
at center. Yeah, no. It could fit in nicely at center. Maybe some other pieces could fit in. You bring in McDavid and other players would want to come. Easy to attract other players. One can dream. It's fun to dream, but I'm sure every fan base would be salivating at the idea of bringing in McDavid. But a lot of teams are up against the cap. I know it's going up, but it would be tough to bring in. What's his cap hit going to be? 16. If Kaprizov is turning down 16 million AAV, I imagine McDavid would be close to 20. But team would have to do some major, accounting to try and figure out how to fit it. And I think that's something that is also a factor. I mean, looking at cap space, Vegas, and according to Puckpedia, minus 7.64 million in cap space. The Panthers, minus 4.5. Dallas, 405K. So these are all the usual suspect teams. Lightning, 1.1 in cap space. Avalanche, 1.3. So I'm sure they'll be able to make it work, but I think it's easier to make it work on, a $7-8 million player than a guy who's going to make 16 million for next season. Or, could be more.
or beyond, right? I love this comment from boring Sean Monahan. So when the Jets signed McDavid, they solved the 2C problem with Scheifele. Finally, McDavid is the 2C the Jets have been looking for all this time. No, but yeah, like I wonder the Golden Knights. I know Alex Pietrangelo is going to start on LTIR in that contract, so that'll get them a little bit closer to that projected the cap hit under the cap. The Panthers are in a tough spot too, but yeah, the Oilers have $200,000 in cap space, and they're a team that's already paid big money to Leon Draisaitl, and they just gave Evan Bouchard a big contract for a bit shorter term this offseason as well. And you scroll down, and the Jets are all the way at $4 million. We know that Jonathan Taves is due some performance bonuses, but how teams manage the cap across the league is going to be really interesting in this rising cap environment, because with more money to spend, teams are going to be more willing to spend. And when they're more willing to spend, you'll see some crazy contracts just to even get to the cap floor. Like you scroll all the way down, the Anaheim Ducks are $20 million under the cap. The Blackhawks are $18 million under the cap. And then the cap's going to jump even more next year. So like a team like Chicago would have no problem trading for and paying Kirill Kaprizov whatever he wants, because cap is such a non-issue for them over the next couple of years as it rises, and they have a ton of space. So could we see a team kind of at the bottom of the league with a ton of cap space make an aggressive move and pay a big ticket for a Kirill Kaprizov, which I think Blackhawks fans would be happy with? Would the Wild trade him in the division? Probably not. But again, we could see a team make an aggressive move and pay a massive contract because of where the cap is going over the next number of years.
Well, that's NHL. The training camp's open. We're already hearing some players and coaches speak to the media. The Jets will be having their first availability tomorrow. The first skate 9:30, and Kyle Connor, will hear from him about his contract situation. Yep. Maybe didn't want to speak the other day. Maybe you were waiting for an announcement or something. Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. The Bombers practicing day 2. Derek Taylor writing on X, another day of limited action for Zach Collaros. Actually playing safety for the simulated Redblacks defense. Michael Griffin, defensive back, out for his second day. He injured his knee in the Ticats game. Cam Eccles, Derek noting Cam Eccles, who they resigned as a receiver a couple weeks ago, made a nice catch. So not much here from the Bombers. Seems like we're trending towards another Chris Streveler start in Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, the first day of Zach Collaros being at practice in gear and not practicing, being limited, kind of working as the quarterback 3, if you will, that you could have taken with a grain of salt. But now a second day of this and him not, running with the first team, I think that's a little bit more substantial when it comes to his status for this weekend. And it's a Saturday game, 2 p.m. against the Ottawa Redblacks. Chris Streveler taking the first 2 days of first team reps here at practice. I think we are trending towards a Chris Streveler start. And it's interesting because Zach Collaros is clearly, feeling good enough to practice in some capacity, but clearly not good enough to run with the first team, practice in full, and play a game this Saturday. There's still time for him to get in, get past the steps and play on Saturday, but him not taking the first team reps in back-to-back days here, I don't think is a good sign for his status on Saturday.
So Connor, with the Bombers at 6-7, heading on the road to Ottawa, is Saturday's game. Are we in must-win territory here for the Blue and Gold?
I don't know. I mean, I don't like using must win when a team's season isn't on the line, but you could argue that a loss to Ottawa would, really mud things up in the CFL's West Division, and potentially, we could look back at it weeks from now and that could be the difference in the Bombers making the playoffs and not. So given the circumstances, I'm calling Saturday's game a must-win. Ottawa has the worst record in the CFL. They're 4-9. Whether it's Chris Streveler or Zach Collaros, I still think the Bombers should be able to win this football game. Last I looked, they were 1-point underdogs on the road over at Coolbet. I think regardless, they should be able to win this game, and the defense should be able to, force some turnovers or something along those lines. Brady Oliveira can have a big game. And where the Bombers are at, 3-7 in their last 10, 3 straight losses, going up against the worst team in the CFL by record, I'm comfortable calling this one a must-win for the Bombers to keep their playoff spot in the West and not give a team like Edmonton the chance to leapfrog them.
They do get some help on the schedule. The Bombers are playing the 4-9 Redblacks, so this might be more can't lose territory than must win. BC, they've got a tough one. They're going into Calgary. Calgary's coming off a bye, and Edmonton going into Hamilton. So they could be getting some help here from the schedule, or it could be a great opportunity for them to put more distance between BC and Edmonton. They are tied with BC at 6-7. But do hold the tiebreaker because of playing them earlier in the season when Nathan Rourke missed a game and really wasn't looking like the player that he did on Saturday, where he carved up those same Redblacks that we'll be seeing on Saturday. Chris Streveler spoke yesterday after practice. A lot of concern about how he's feeling. Tried to take it into the end zone at the end of the game. Took a pretty big hit and remained on the ground. Derek Taylor asked him how he's feeling at the start of yesterday's practice.
I didn't get a chance to talk to you after the game. How are you feeling? That last play.
Oh, physically I'm good. Was just not happy with the outcome, but I'm good physically.
Okay. It felt like one of those car crash moments that you signed up for as a football player.
That's how it felt. That's how it felt. But I'm feeling okay now, so.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Your overall impression of that game?
Just can't turn the ball over, man. And we've just been doing that too much this year. We moved the ball. We did. And, we didn't finish in the end zone enough, but we moved the ball. And, the one positive I did like is guys didn't stop fighting until the end. Put together a couple drives there. And, just our team didn't show any quit. So that's the stuff that you can build on. And obviously, I have to and we have to take better care of the football.
What did you make of Brady's performance? I guess the run game's performance is a better way to say that.
Yeah, we've talked about it so much, just how fun it is to be out there with Brady and the way that he runs. And, when guys feel that type of physicality and that type of enthusiasm, it energizes the team. And that's what he brings. That's what I try to bring. I hand it off to him. I'm trying to get blocks, and I'm running. He's knocking two people on the ground, man. So it's fun to be out there running the ball and being physical with him. And the way that he plays energizes our team.
There's Chris Streveler after practice yesterday, and he was asked a lot of talk yesterday about turnovers. The Bombers turned the ball over more than any other team, and you look at interceptions, him and Zach Collaros among the league leaders, top three, two quarterbacks from the same team. Seems like a rare feat, but here's Streveler asked about turnovers.
Before the half, that's tough, man. It's a tough, momentum thing where you give them points and then they get the ball coming out of half, right? So that's tough, but we were in the game. We just didn't finish in the end zone. But again, we put our defense in tough positions there. And, I thought our defense played a really, really good game. But when you give them short fields like that, it's hard on them. So I got to do a better job. We all got to do a better job of just continuing to make that a point of emphasis and carry it over to game day.
Picks can be anything from a bad read to bad throw to a defensive pressure to receiver route. Can you take us through those two as to what happened on them?
Yeah, the first one was a screen. And, the corner made a nice play, got underneath our block and was able to jump in front of the route and make a pick. Just good play by him. And then the next one, we're rolling out. We had man coverage, defenders just sitting there in man, and was able to undercut the throw. Probably could have put it in a better location or just made a different decision there. So, both good plays by the defender, but again, it's just I want to be smart with the ball in my hands, and we all want to take care of the football, and that's just going to continue to be a point of emphasis even more so as we move deeper into the season here.
Lack of reps a factor in that, you think, as far as your lack of starting experience? No.
I've started plenty of football games, and I've played a lot of football, and I understand how important it is to take care of the ball. So ultimately, I'm the quarterback. And, when we turn the ball over or interception happens, I got to take good care of the football, and I'm going to own that every time. So it's on me. It starts with me, and I got to keep doing a better job.
As Chris Streveler yesterday says, he has to keep doing a better job. I mentioned the stat about turnovers, interceptions, him and Zach Collaros among the league leaders. He was asked about that yesterday by Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press, who was on with me actually on Monday. So here's Streveler addressing more on the turnovers.
Yes, it's not ideal, right? I mean, you don't want to be turning the ball over. You don't want to be throwing picks. It's not ideal. We obviously wish it wasn't that way, but it is that way. So what can we do? We can focus on making it into more of a point of emphasis and just try to hyper-focus on taking care of the football. And that's what we can do moving forward. It's obviously not ideal, but we're going to keep focusing on that and getting better.
People calling for Terry Wilson that he should have ended the game or whatever. Does that put a chip on your shoulder, or do you just block out that noise from people?
I don't know who people in general are. I don't pay attention to that. I'm worried about doing my job. We put 2 good drives together at the end of the game. So whoever people are, that's their opinion. They're entitled to their opinion. I'm going to focus on what I can do, coming in here, working my tail off every single day, and getting better.
There's Chris Streveler. He's going to focus on what he can do every day to get better. Connor, not focused on what people out there, whoever the generic people.
Whoever those could be.
Maybe. They put together 2 good drives at the end, and he's looking forward to keeping it going against Ottawa, assuming he's named the starter.
Yeah, for sure. And it is good and refreshing to hear that it's such a point of emphasis for them as well. We can sit here and be those people and talk about how Terry Wilson should start or the Bombers can't turn the ball over as much, but they're clearly aware that this is what's costing them football games. You could argue that that's what cost them the game against Hamilton because Chris Streveler said they moved the ball well. They ran for almost 200 yards at over 7 yards a carry between Streveler and Brady Oliveira. Ontario Wilson led the team in receiving for a second straight game with 74 yards. They moved the ball well. They outgained Hamilton. It was the true turnovers that put Hamilton in really good spots for them to score that really changed that game. So it's refreshing to hear it from them, and hopefully it's a point of emphasis and something that they can limit this Saturday against Ottawa.
Yeah, a lot of talk about Zach Collaros, his health. Streveler talked yesterday about seeing him out there, not taking first-team reps, but being on the field and spectating.
It seems like he's doing good. Me and Zach are close friends, and I've talked about that a lot, and so I always keep good tabs on him. I love him as a person, more than a football player. So just to see him starting to feel better and out here practice throwing around with us, man, it's good from a team standpoint. It's also just good to see him progressing the right way, and it gives us energy, man. Like, that's our guy. So, we love to see him out here, and he brings energy, and he brings obviously a lot to this team when he's on the field, even if he's not taking all the snaps. So great to see him.
You probably heard what Milt had to say about long-term and stuff, whether he should be playing or not. Is that a conversation players ever have with teammates? They're your friends too, and the long-term effects potentially of repeated head injuries. That's something you guys ever talk
Like I said,
about?
I care about him as more than a football player. I love him as a person. So, our private conversations, we have private conversations, and I just check in with him as a person, man. So I just leave it at that, man. And that's, everyone's got things to say about different things. So I love Zach.
There's Chris Streveler says he loves Zach Collaros, but Connor, I think it's been encouraging that, he's been at practice, that he's been traveling to Hamilton. Doesn't seem like he's on track to be starting. Maybe he practices tomorrow and the coach comes out and says, Zach, he's a pro. He doesn't need practice. But it seems like, they're on the same page there, and nice to hear that he's doing all right.
Yes, for sure. I mean, ever since Zach got hit in the Banjo Bowl, the thing that we've been saying the most is his health and just concern for him as a person and the concussion, the head injury. That's one of the scariest things in football. So to hear that Zach, to see him travel with the team to Hamilton was a very good sign in terms of just his overall well-being. But he's practicing, he's moving around, he's limited in practice. And while he might not start this Saturday, couldn't agree more, Remis. Definitely a good sign to see and hear from Chris Streveler that Zach is doing well. And we'll see if he returns, maybe next week, if he's already limited in practice this week. I also wouldn't be shocked, like you said, if Zach Collaros is one of those veterans where Mike O'Shea could say, he doesn't need to practice, just like Stanley Bryant and Willie Jefferson. These guys don't need to practice. They know what to do and can go out there on game day and execute. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that either, even though we are trending towards a Chris Streveler start. Ultimately, good to see that Zach is doing well back at practice and his overall well-being is in a good spot.
So there it is, Chris Streveler yesterday at Bromers practice. Connor, thanks for hopping on here in the start. You've got a great conversation coming up about the upcoming season. But first, here's Hustler.
We are so excited to be partnering up with the Health Sciences Center Foundation for the HSC Millionaire Lottery launch, folks, and tickets are now on sale. Of course, this is how you can help save lives at Manitoba's hospital, the Health Sciences Center, and become a millionaire. And tickets are on sale now at hscmillionaire.com. You can become Manitoba's newest millionaire with the grand prize draw. Win the all-Canadian dream, a luxury home in Manitoba or oceanfront in BC worth $1.5 million, or take $1.25 million in tax-free cash. Now, there's more early winners than ever before this year, which means get your tickets now. There's $340,000 in early draws, including the brand new Grey Cup bonus. And the fall bonus right now, if you get your tickets before September 25th, you'll have the opportunity to choose from over $48,000 in prizes, or a 2026 Toyota RAV4, $40K in cash, $40,000 in Indigo travel vouchers, plus a $5,000 in cash. And of course, 2 winners of gas and groceries, $1,000 in Red River Co-op gift cards. It is for an unbelievable cause, Manitoba's hospital, and it is the biggest lottery of the year. So get your tickets now today, hscmillionaire.com. You can call as well, toll free, 1-855-999-5688. Or if you'd like to buy them in person, pop down to London Drugs, St. Vital Center, or Red River Co-op food stores in Winnipeg and Selkirk. And again, hscmillionaire.com. You know what to do, folks. Hey, if you've got a move coming up this fall, holler at our friends at Rolly's Transfer, the experts in the business, the most trusted name in moving for over 60 years in Manitoba. Check out their website at rollys.com for all of their services and more on their story. But click on that request an estimate in the top right corner and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. And then let them know when you're planning on moving, where you're going to, and what you will be moving. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around real quick and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, lean on the gang at Rolly's, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollys.com. Well, the kids are back at school. We're moving into fall. But have you forgot to see the dentist lately? Hey, listen, if you or your family need a new spot to go in to take care of all your dental needs, head on down to our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff would love to take care of you, as they've been doing for generations of Manitobans, serving clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups all the way to procedures like dental implants. They do it all with a smile on their face, and they'll make your smile look better than ever before. Beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's Road, convenient free parking right behind the building. Find out more online and make an appointment at stvitaldental.ca. And make sure to tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And hey, Bomber fans, there's still time to get your hands on that special edition, limited edition Blue Bomber label Canadian Club. Of course, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the iconic Canadian whiskey since 1858. As the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they've got a special Blue Bomber bottle that is on shelves now at your local Manitoba liquor marts while supplies last. And while you're there, make sure to keep your eye out for the Canadian Club Club Pack, because we've got a little bit of more summery weather. Why not get the best drinks from the summer? The Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, the Citrus Smash, the Half and Half, all available in the Canadian Club Club Pack, along with the special edition Bomber bottle of Canadian Club at your local Manitoba liquor marts.
So this regular season, about just around the corner. Training camps start tomorrow. Time to come up with all of our rankings, our lists, our predictions. And The Athletic has put together a really comprehensive tiers list ranking 150 players, not just your standard type of list that's a spreadsheet, but they talk to GM or executives, they talk to coaches, they talk to players to put this together. Pleased to be joined right now by Shayna Goldman from The Athletic. You can follow her on X at Shayna Goldman, who was part of the team with Dom Lucian and Sean Gentili that put this thing together. Shayna, how's it going? Thanks so much for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Shayna, these player tiers, pretty comprehensive. Not quite ranking, but listing the 150 players in the NHL into tiers. What went into this comprehensive piece available now at The Athletic?
A little bit of everything. It's a process. We spend like a good month on this, really. So we start with Dom's model as our jumping off point that projects where players are going to be for the next season. And, Sean, Dom, and I each make our own lists to start. So we make our top 150 within the tiers, and then we go through them, debate. And as we're debating, we come up with questions along the way of people that maybe we're the most stuck on that we know we want to ask. And then we kind of break out into our own groups and start talking to as many team people as will talk to us, and all different insiders from different points around the league. And then we'll circle back and look at the notes that we've collected from them and debate them again. So then we re-rank, and maybe then we'll go for a final round of takes from different insiders with new questions that we formed from our check-in point, basically, and go from there.
150 players ranked within tiers, and you mentioned Dom has this model at The Athletic where you use pretty much in everything, but it's not just the analytics. You're talking with GMs, front office people, even former players. I mean, it seemed like you got tier 1, the MVP tier. Seemed like that might have been the easiest tier to place. McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Makar, Barkov, Kucherov, Quinn Hughes, Matthews, Kaprizov, and Pasternak. It seemed like that one was pretty straightforward, and then go from there.
Yeah, it was mostly straightforward. We know, so we've done this a couple ways with Connor McDavid. We've had it that he's been tier 1A all to himself, and then this year I think is the same as last year where he leads the way in 1A. It's the one time we're gonna break from there's no ranks within the tiers and say he leads that group. I think we were pretty okay with the Draisaitl's, McKinnons of the world. Makar and Hughes was one interesting discussion point we had in tier 1, and it was, how far apart are they? Where do they belong? We originally went with Makar in 1B and Quinn Hughes in 1C, and we got a lot of pushback from the insiders saying both should be up a sub tier. But, the one thing that was very clear was that there is some separation. And then otherwise in tier 1, I would say the one that we did talk about a bunch was Jack Hughes. I think we originally had in 1C. We put him down to 2A, and Nikita Kucherov, and whether he belonged in 1A or 1B. And it's really tough because it's something that's kind of out of his control. Like a winger's value is never going to compare to a center's value, which is why he is where he is. But, in that placement and how he has that separation from Kaprizov and Pasternak, it's clear he's a little bit above the rest. He is the best winger in the league.
I think Jets fans might take some exception. You have the tier 1, the MVP tier, but it doesn't include the league MVP, Connor Hellebuyck, Hart Trophy, and Vezina Trophy winner. How tough was it to keep him out of tier 1, and was it just a playoff performance the only factor there?
Yeah, pretty much. Last year when we did this, which was the first time we included goalies, he was the second goalie on the list. I think he was 2B behind Igor Shesterkin. And this year it was clear he was going to be the number 1 goaltender on our list. But we went back and forth. Originally we had him in 2A. Then we contemplated maybe a goalie should be that 11th player in tier 1 to kind of round out the group and show that he's, ahead above the rest. But the playoffs, if he was league average, if he was just okay against the Blues, because he was better against the Stars, right? Granted, the Stars didn't generate as much offense. So that's one consideration. But if he could have been average against the Blues, I think it would have been fine. And you probably would have gotten that 1C nod, but it's a problem that year after year keeps coming up. So until he proves otherwise, it's going to be a knock on him. And we talked to a lot of different people about this, how to navigate this one. We got split decisions on whether a goalie should have been an MVP, but it just felt like no one truly deserved it.
Yeah, well, that's certainly been a question here, that maybe I was in denial about, but after this year's series against the Blues, it definitely became a major talking point. It certainly rebounded against the Stars, but you do wonder if that series doesn't go, 7 games and it's not this war, would they be able to get past the Stars in round 2, in which was a very close series. The other Jet that you have in the franchise tier is Josh Morrissey. And I mean, what's put him, jumping tier over tier the last couple of years this season to one of the premier defensemen in the NHL?
I think he's gotten a lot of hype in years past, and sometimes it was because of the scoring. And I think he's always been, a very good top pair defenseman. I think last year was very clear that he's not just a top pair defenseman, but a true all-around number one. We talk a lot about the Jets and how good they are, and the defensive structure is a big reason why. Like, that was a huge jumping off point, I think, for them this year to give Hrabchak a lot more support than they have in years past. I think he's the key cog that gets that all going. So we looked at him in that group of defensemen, and, it was, who would you rather have, a Forsling, a Morrissey, or Slavin, I think was the question we were posing. And we were getting different viewpoints on that. But Morrissey is someone that was always, he's someone I think every team would be happy to have as your number one. He's not going to be as electrifying as, a Quinn Hughes or a Cale Makar, and who among us is. But he is a very, very good number one to have.
Yeah, Josh Morrissey, you guys have him projected for 64 points. That's 13 goals, 54 assists. The next player, Jets player on your list, Kyle Connor. He finished top 10 in scoring, but he's still in tier 3. What prevented him from going up to the franchise tier? And hey, all-star tier, top 60 player, pretty good. But this was a guy who was top 10 in the league in points last year. What held Kyle Connor back from advancing on this list?
See, I would look at it the other way. I would say it's the fact that he did advance because, it's a second straight year, I think, in 3B after, we've had him in tier 4 before, for the 2 years before that. And it's that he's showing more substance, right? We know he's a great goal scorer and he can put up 40 goals, and I think he can score in all different ways. And that's a great thing to have. But I think the fact that he was very good as a playmaker this year, as someone who had to go up against some tough competition. Him and Shifley didn't have the easiest of minutes, and we saw they both looked a lot better defensively in their time. And whether or not that's an individual improvement or, just because the team was so better structurally, I think it's a little bit of both because, in years past, we've seen them be really, really awful defensively. So I would say it's that he's jumping up the ranks and he's holding firm in his position versus he's not stacking up to the rest, because some of the other wingers there, we talked a lot about him, like some of the players, like a Matt Boldy, he's doing it. He's a little bit younger, so that's going to work in his favor. Seth Jarvis is someone who legitimately has one of the best defensive ratings of any forward. So that's where that separation comes in. But if Kyle Connor can just keep doing what he's doing and sprinkle in a little bit more, tier 3 is a very good place to be.
Yeah, Kyle Connor, 28 years old, entering the final year of his deal, and we're staying tuned to any morsel of reporting on the possible next contract. And you mentioned the defensive play. I think there were concerns here about that, him and Mark Shifley together, but it was certainly improved throughout the season. And it seemed like your group had a bit of difficulty ranking Mark Shifley. He's in the tier 4 star. He had a great season last year. What made it so challenging to rank Mark Shifley on this list?
Yeah, he's someone that, as a 1C, he's not in the same category as some of the guys you're going to see in tier 3 and tier 4. And, there's going to be like a natural ranking within each position, right? And that this year, when we were going through the list, we not only were looking at it as the top 150, but we did a lot of breakdowns by position, which helps you kind of find those comparable rankings of where someone, belongs. So he's a good first line center, but, on a really strong team, if there's a Nathan Kinnair or Connor McDavid, like, he already is sliding down the lineup. I think you factor in the age and where we project him to go from here, and the fact that there are some flaws to his game, right? Like, I think it all kind of comes together as he's not the perfect play driving first line center. He's very good at it. But I think having 2 wingers is what got him up to this level. So that is what's going to hold him back compared to some of the other guys who do it all themselves.
Yeah, Mark Shifley projected 83 points, 36 goals, 47 assists. A bit of a step back from last season's totals, but still very good, as you mentioned. And then down in tier 5, seemed like Dylan Samberg, he's starting to get noticed by a lot of people around the league. What stood out for you about Dylan Samberg? And and also Gabriel Velarde, who's there in tier 5.
For Velarde, I think we all know he has the skill to go higher. It's just doing this over a longer stretch of time. We're going to see it'll be an interesting year for him and Mark Scheifele both because their shooting percentages were both a little too high. So if they come back down to earth, what are they going to do to make up for it? But I think for Velarde, the other key for him to move up on this list is going to be the durability factor and staying in the lineup. And obviously that's something that's out of a player's control. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about the best players in the league, we have to nitpick somewhere, and the fact that he isn't always an 82-game player is going to be a factor. For Sandberg, he wasn't on the list originally. Actually, I believe I had him on. I don't think Sean and Dom did because we were nitpicking at that bottom of who fit where. But he was someone that got a lot of support from our insiders too. It's that shutdown game. He's really emerged as such a good shutdown player, and he's someone that goes up against top competition consistently. So he's taking those minutes, so the burden doesn't have to be just on Josh Morrissey, and I think that's what's really helping the Jets take their game up a notch. So he's someone that everybody that we spoke to had something good to say about him, which is a very good starting point.
Yeah, defensive defensemen, not really, they don't really get a lot of fanfare, not putting up those big point totals, but he's a player you can match him up against another team's top line. And I mean, huge projection here for Gabriel Velarde. I'm guessing this assumes he plays 82 games, 33 goals, 35 assists, and 68 points. That would be a career season for him. Just one Jets player didn't make the cut. I imagine he might be there in the future. Cole Perfetti, how close was he? And do you see a breakout season for him coming with more opportunity after the departure of Nikolai Ehlers?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the guys that just missed the cut, and maybe it was a different like path for us from years past. A lot of times we've looked at veterans from the track record of could they be the fringe players, but I think this year we were all kind of like swaying towards the young guns, right? The Will Smiths of the world, how are they going to make it? The Leo Carlsons and the Fantillis who, got the jump in there at the end. So a player like Cole Perfetti, I think is going to be on the fringes of that, and it'll be a big year for him because I think individually he's shown that he's taken a lot of steps and can be more of an impact player than he's been trusted to be in the past. I think his playoffs, he was really strong for the Jets, came up in clutch moments, which is, it's a big stepping stone, right? So that's going to help him. It's just how is he going to look without Ehlers and without a true replacement, right? Because I think there's some question marks in Winnipeg about what the supporting cast is going to look like, who's going to step up in his absence, what the center depth is going to look like with Nemesnikov and Taves, and whether either one can kind of make up for what was lost on the wing. So I think a lot of that pressure and responsibility is going to fall on Perfetti. If he does thrive, and I think that he's going to take a big step forward this year, I can't see him not making the cut next year.
I always look at his fantasy rankings going into every year. I think he had him like 57 points. I'll have to double check. I don't have it open right now. But when you put this whole list together, was there something that stood out to you that made you go, that's interesting?
I would say the tier 2 defensemen were the most interesting to look at, and the takes. I am fascinated by how much Four Nations has been factored into things, right, wrong, or sideways, because, that's just a microcosm of the season, of the playoffs, of this really intense environment. And it's not real hockey at the end of the day. You're not going to have four lines that look like, say, Team Canada's four lines. So it's tough to gauge how much we should or shouldn't trust that. But a lot of names were talked about in there, and it was Miro Heiskanen. He was getting a ton of support to move up, and it knocked him up at sub-tier from where we originally had him. And someone like Rasmus Dahlin got a lot of support this year, despite the team around him. But guys like Bouchard and Fox, on the other hand, there's a lot of criticisms around their game. And I always find that one interesting because, you look at someone like Bouchard, he's basically the polar opposite of a Jacob Slavin, right? Slavin is as defensively sound and dependable as possible. And Bouchard, when he makes a mistake, it's so glaring. And because of the Oilers goaltending situation, it usually ends up in a goal against. And, I think public models might underrate just how bad some of the mistakes are when it comes to expected goals. But then you have someone like Fox, who he doesn't have that electric skill set like a Bouchard, like a Quinn Hughes, like a Cale Makar. And that definitely hurts him because he plays a more methodical approach to things. But pair that with what he did at Four Nations, and there's there was a lot of criticism to move him down, and we started with him in 2A and eventually landed with him in 2C. And it was a rating that I think we all kind of pushed back on. But I just think it's fascinating how everybody views defensemen.
Defenseman, tough to rank, as you mentioned. You want to look at something like points, but you can have a guy like Mikey Anderson or Dylan Sandberg in there that make an impact in their own way. Jacob Slavin as well. You mentioned Four Nations. Seemed like every player, there was a blurb on how they fit in. I saw Mark Scheifele said, he should have been on the team. Or Kyle Connor's blurb is, I didn't like him at the Four Nations, but in the NHL, he's unbelievable. A coach said, who's better at scoring goals than that guy? I have to ask you, you're in the U.S., does Kyle Connor make the U.S. team, and is some of his performance overblown compared to some of the other players? I don't see anyone giving Jack Hughes flack for his Four Nations performance.
Yeah, I think that I think everything with Four Nations has just been overblown, and it's just like beating a dead horse at this point. I think someone like Kyle Connor is good to have on Team USA because at the end of the day, they needed more goal scoring. So I personally would have more goal scorers if I were building the team tomorrow. I would also have bigger roles for players like Dylan Larkin, who I think, he's much better than a bottom six deployment there. I think he's such a spark plug to have. I think a big thing too here is it's one thing to talk about guys who have issues with their playoff pedigree, and I think the Jets get associated with that a lot, and rightfully so to an extent, because Ehlers was someone who had that issue up until this year. Perfetti had to have his moment in the playoffs this year, and obviously there's the Connor Hellebuck of it all, but I think Kyle Connor has shown he can handle playing in that environment, so I think he'll be just fine for Team USA.
Yeah, no doubt Kyle Connor has scored some pretty big goals here, and one thing I did looking through the tiers, saw which teams had the most players. I don't think I was too surprised that Florida, I think they had 8 players on the list, but I was very surprised to see, Carolina, who many would say is a Stanley Cup favorite, to have, they only had 5 players on the list. Was there any surprise for you in terms of teams and the number of players they had in the top 150?
Yeah, the Panthers, maybe we drank the Panthers Kool-Aid a little bit much, but I think the thing is their biggest weapon is their depth, right, up front and on the back end. And on any other team, you would see these guys slotted a lot differently. To have Seth Jones be your 3 or 4 and have Aaron Ekblad not be a number 1, like that's pretty huge, right? We're going down the list, and Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand are the 4th and 5th best forwards in Florida, and they're still making the cut. But then again, the reverse is true too. Like if Sam Bennett did sign somewhere else, would he be here or in the conversation? I'm not so sure. I think the Panthers get the best version out of him. And I also think he's exactly what that team needs. So you have to take that into consideration. But yeah, a team like the Canes, their star power has always been a conversation. And I think it shows that it's only one defenseman on the list. I think that's pretty huge for them, because you look at years past and we all thought of them for their blue line, right? With Brett Pesce playing alongside Slavin and just having the depth behind them, and it looks so different now. They've interchanged it a bunch. So I'm intrigued to see if this looks a little bit different next year. They added a player like Kendra Miller, who I think is so perfect for them, and maybe he could be the guy that jumps up, because I think they can maximize his skill set a lot.
In the West, I wanted to see how the Jets stacked up. I think they had 5. Dallas, they've got quite a bit at 8 here. Colorado, not as many. You see Dallas as the favorite to overtake Edmonton as the Western Conference representative in the Cup final.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. I mean, it's kind of funny when you look at Dallas and everyone talks about how Peter DeBoer was like the Mr. Game 7 of all coaches. But then again, you look at it like they still had their limitations. So I do think a change of coaching is going to go a long way for them, because they have a very good roster. And I think you look at the Oilers and you can still see some flaws. But I think it's just going to come down to the two of them, year after year in the Western Conference final to figure it out. And it'll be interesting to see, especially with the Gulletson factor, right? Like now you have a coach who's played on both, who's coached on both sides of it too. Does he bring a different perspective? Does it hurt the Oilers' power play at all, which obviously is a big strength of theirs? I'm going to say it's going to be really tight between those two teams again.
Will be, all the previews, the prognostications, Athletic, a great spot for that. You've put together this player tier list, very comprehensive, a great read. Shayna, thanks so much for joining me here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Want to let everyone know anything else you want to promote as well, where we can see your work?
Yeah, just follow along at The Athletic. We're going to have season previews rolling out very soon. I think they start rolling next week from, worst to the best. And along the way, you can find things like fantasy hockey draft kits, stuff like that I'm definitely working on to get that going for season start as well.
There's Shayna Goldman of The Athletic. Great conversation with her. And check out their list. Some great write-ups and scouting reports on the top 150 players. We're going to head back with Drew Mindell for some more Winnipeg Jets discussion. But first, here's Huss.
As always, we'd like to thank Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast, is the home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, home the Princess Auto Stadium. But we've got Princess Autos coast to coast, including 3 in Manitoba, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and of course out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store or shop online today, 24/7, 365, and get those ideas and plans working as we get into fall. Hey, speaking of fall, it won't be too long before we're worrying about making sure the cars and the trucks are starting in the morning. Donnie and Manitoba Battery have you covered for that, as they have all summer long for batteries for boats and campers and ATVs, you name it. Sled season not too far away as well. Whatever you need batteries for, the bottom line is Manitoba Battery is your local option where you'll save big over the big box stores and get the best customer service in town. Manitoba Battery pledges to have the best prices in town, period. Got a big harvest sale on right now, so make sure to check all of those details out at manitobabattery.com. But in addition, they'll take care of you with 2 locations, Logan Avenue or the new location on the south end on Dovercourt Drive. But better yet, Manitoba Battery knows you're busy, and they'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Pop by and see Manitoba Battery in store for the best deals in town, or give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com and let Donnie and the gang bring the best deals on batteries in town to you. And hey, fellas, with that fall pretty much here, I know many of you might be looking into your closet and saying, you know what? I need to up my menswear game. Well, good news. You can do that with one trip down to the leaders in custom men's clothing in town, F Apparel at 190 Smith Street, just a slap shot from the arena downtown. F Apparel has the best in custom men's clothing, including suits starting at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories in town. If you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a special discount for the wedding party when you get your suits for the big day. For all your menswear needs, make it F Apparel. You can find out more online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com, and visit them in their showroom at 190 Smith Street downtown.
Pleased to be joined by the host of the Legal Curve Hockey Show, Saturdays at 9 on YouTube and podcast after, Drew Mindell. Drew, thanks so much for taking the time to join. It's the night or the day before training camp. Finally, it's here. Feels good, right?
Oh, it feels great. The storylines have been bandied about ad nauseum. We all know what they are. It's now time to let the rubber hit the road, as the cliche goes, and actually see these athletes perform on the ice, and then we can sort of see where the Winnipeg Jets go from there. But no, always exciting this time of year. Hope springs eternal, even if the calendar says September and not so much April.
In the 15th Winnipeg Jets training camp, the 15th anniversary season, and the highlight, I think, Drew, of training camp, the one everyone's eyes will be on the player, Jonathan Toews. I mean, very exciting, legendary player, Stanley Cups, gold medals, but how realistic is it for Jonathan Toews, who's in his upper 30s, hasn't played in a couple years, to handle, middle six minutes right away?
I mean, I think that it's reasonable to think that he's going to be a positive influence and that he's going to be a positive addition. Is he going to be a panacea? Is he going to be, some sort of overwhelming difference maker? I think that would be unreasonable to expect, but I don't think anybody necessarily expects that. I think people want to see Jonathan Toews perform, contribute positively on the ice. The Jets still have a very good team around him. He's not coming in. Nobody's asking him to be the solution, because the solution already exists. The solution is Connor Hellebuyck. The solution is Josh Morrissey. The solution is Scheifele and Velarde and Connor and an improved Cole Perfetti and et cetera, et cetera. We all know the names. I don't need to go through it all in excruciating detail, but Jonathan Toews is just another asset to add to the cupboard of the Winnipeg Jets. And hopefully he is able to perform in a reasonable level, commensurate to what we remember him in his prime. Not that he's going to be prime Jonathan Toews, but that there's going to be glimpses thereof. And I think the Winnipeg Jets would be fine with that.
The other note heading into training camp, Kyle Connor heading into this season in the final year of his contract. Although it doesn't seem like this is as big of a cloud hanging over training camp, but maybe as it was a couple years ago with Hellebuyck and Scheifele, or last year with Nikolai Ehlers. How should fans be feeling here heading into this training camp with Kyle Connor in the last year of his deal?
Well, I think, they should be optimistic that there's going to be a deal done, but that optimism, can quickly dissipate if it doesn't get done, in September, in October, in November, in December. Then all of a sudden the questions get louder and the alarm bells get ringing. But, I was watching, insider trading last night, and the, insiders were all speaking very positively about it, and they expect this shouldn't be a particularly contentious negotiation. I mean, talk is cheap. We remember those same insiders said that there was no chance of Hellebuyck and Scheifele re-signing in Winnipeg a couple of years ago. So, as you can see by that example, we all know that they say things and they never have to be accountable for the nonsense they spew out sometimes. But that said, from a Jets perspective, I think that Kyle Connor's happy here. The organization is, of course, thrilled with him. So you would hope that would mean a deal would get done sooner rather than later. The Jets have a history of getting long-term contracts signed, throughout training camp or towards the tail end of training camps. And certainly the Winnipeg Jets fan base would hope that that's going to be similar. We remember, I think it was October, 9th, I might be off on a couple days, when Scheifele and Hellebuyck signed, when Blake Wheeler back in the day signed his latest contract extension with the Jets. So there's if past actions predict future actions, Jets fans would hope that Kyle Connor is going to be the next to add to that list.
Yes, it was Thanksgiving Monday. The Scheifele and Hellebuyck announcement came out. The Jets will be playing on Thanksgiving Monday in against the New York Islanders. So maybe it comes before. Do you have a panic button that you'll be hitting if there is on a certain date, or if Kyle Connor hasn't signed it? Do you have that date in mind?
I don't have a date in mind immediately. I mean, I think as you get closer to unrestricted free agency, then, the temptation to see what the market holds grows. That said, I mean, it's going to be a story if it doesn't get done, especially, you can't afford to have people walk out the door without recouping some sort of assets that many times in a row. Ehlers last year felt different. We know all about the usage questions with regard to Nikolai Ehlers, so it sort of felt as though he was going to explore what the market had to bear. I don't necessarily get that same impression from Kyle Connor. I mean, he gets all the minutes and playing time that he could ever hope for and ask for, and he's such an important contributor to the Winnipeg Jets. Look, the It's a matter of just, is there going to be a dollar figure that they land upon where they can come to it, or is Kyle Connor going to maybe wait and see what Kirill Kaprizov ends up doing, what Connor McDavid ends up doing, and then sort of find his number at that point? Or is he going to be the first horse out of the barn who signs that long-term deal for more than 10, 11, 12 million dollars a year? Time will tell on that front, certainly is the case.
Yeah, very fascinating what's going to happen with all these top players entering the final year of their contracts. And you mentioned Nikolai Ehlers. How tough is it going to be for the Winnipeg Jets to replace everything that he brought to the team over the last, 10 years? Nikolai Ehlers was here.
Well, they don't have a built-in, they don't have somebody who's automatically going to step in and fill that role. And that's certainly an issue for the Winnipeg Jets. Are they too top heavy when it comes to their scoring? I mean, I think that's a valid question that people would have. The Jets are obviously going to succeed with their depth, and that's been their sort of MO for the last number of years, is that they have a very solid, forward group 1 through 12. So to expect somebody to immediately step in and be Nikolai Ehlers light is unlikely going to be the case. But if they can spread out that offense throughout, with a Gus Nyquist, if they can spread it out with maybe Morgan Barron taking on a bit of a bigger role, if they can just spread out the contributions throughout 3 or 4 different players during the early parts of the regular season, then the Jets will be fine doing that. And again, remember, this is a team that's not afraid to make additions around the trade deadline. So if the Jets can sort of affirm themselves as a solid playoff team in the early parts of the season, in the Octobers, Novembers, and Decembers, I would not be surprised to see Kevin Cheveldayoff try and upgrade that top 6 as you get closer to the nitty-gritty time of the season.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti, is he going to be the player that gets counted on? Do we see a leap from him? 50 points last year, full season, 18 goals, 32 assists. Will he surpass that this season?
I mean, there's no reason to think that he won't. Health, obviously, is the factor, but that's true with every player in the league. There's no reason to think that his trajectory isn't still an upward trajectory. Same with a guy like Gabe Vilardi, for that matter. There's no reason to think that he has hit his ceiling when it comes to his contributions to the Winnipeg Jets. So if, Vilardi continues to improve, if Perfetti continues to improve, that's going to go a long way in alleviating the impact of the loss of a Nikolai Ehlers. So again, these guys aren't all at their peaks. Some of, is Scheifele at his peak? Well, maybe he's probably pretty close to it. Is Connor at his peak? Maybe he's probably pretty close to it, but there's still no reason to think that Vilardi and Perfetti and some of the other guys might not have more to give, which will certainly help the Winnipeg Jets, as the season moves on.
Looking at the center position, the team will be without Adam Lowry as he recovers from hip surgery. How will this change the team's look down the middle for you?
Well, I mean, Adam Lowry does so much for this Winnipeg Jets team. He's the de facto number 2 center. That's the kind of minutes he was playing, even if he's not a typical number 2 center offensive, number 2 offensive center. There's no discounting the loss of Adam Lowry, and his absence will be felt until he's back and fully healthy in the Winnipeg Jets lineup. That said, I do think that there are options that can weather the storm of his absence until he's back and ready to go, be it late October or early November. So I don't think that it's, panic central by any stretch of the imagination. But, we've seen other players step up when given an opportunity or when the team relies on them. Morgan Barron, if he gets some minutes up the middle, he was very, I would describe him as an intriguing option up the middle, particularly towards the end of last year. Jonathan Toews, aforementioned. If Toews can come in and give you, 70% of what Adam Lowry does, while Lowry's out of the lineup, the Jets will be very happy with that. Finding a way there. Vlad Namestnikov, always being replaced in his role for the Winnipeg Jets, but just a knowledgeable veteran who does his job and will, be able to, contribute for the Winnipeg Jets again. Look, anytime you're without an Adam Lowry in your lineup, you're going to feel it to some extent, but I don't think that it's going to be the downfall of the Winnipeg Jets early this season.
We haven't spent a lot of time on the forwards here, haven't touched at all on the defense. Seems like it's pretty set in stone at the top with DeMello, Morrissey, Pionk, Sandberg, but there's a lot of players signed here who could be on the third pair: Luke Shen, Colin Miller, Aiden Fleury, Logan Stanley. You also have Ville Heinola, who's going to require waivers this year, Elias Salamonson, who we just saw at the Prospects Challenge there in Montreal. What do you make of how things are going to shake out on defense with that bottom pair and beyond?
Look, it's internal competition. I mean, I think every team wants real internal competition, and that's what the Jets have as it pertains to their bottom pair defense. They have a lot of different options that they can choose from. So if Hayden Fleury is looking good off the start, maybe he gets a first shot. But then if there's any slippage in his game or in the game of anybody that's in that mix, there's somebody else who's going to have to come, who's going to get a chance to come in. I think with the iron sharpens iron, I believe that's an expression. The Jets are probably relying on that to some extent, that they're always going to have to be sharp. Whomever is in that bottom six or the bottom pair role on the Jets defense is going to need to contribute. They're going to need to perform, because if they don't, there's going to be somebody right behind them who is going to take that opportunity or want that opportunity or be an option for Scott Arniel to come in and show that, yes, I can do better than the option you had beforehand. I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing for the Winnipeg Jets that you have 9-10 defensemen who conceivably can be considered NHL caliber defensemen. I mean, that is, most teams would probably appreciate having that option available to them. They would appreciate having that sort of depth. We saw last year that there were times where the Jets had some injury bugs on the back end. We remember Dylan Sandberg getting hurt in Nashville. Obviously, the Jets don't want that to happen again. They don't want to replicate that. But there is an element of comfort in knowing that they have defensemen who have played NHL minutes, significant NHL minutes that they can rely on in a pinch. Not the ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination, but better than having to rely on an untested option to step in and play against NHL caliber talent.
Now, training camp starts up, fresh slate for everyone, and we just had, as I said, the Prospects, in Montreal playing, and a lot of hype about young players, excitement. But was there a real chance any of these guys, either Lambert, Chibrikov, Colby Barlow, Braden Yeager, any of them, any chance that one of them would force their way onto a roster out of training camp?
It would be a surprise. I don't think that anybody's necessarily expecting them to step in, but I think the Jets have always been an open-minded organization, and I don't think they're going to say to somebody, yes, you want a job, but sorry, we're still going to have to start you at the AHL level because of contractual situations. I think if you win a job, at training camp, you're going to get the chance to demonstrate that at the NHL level. I would be surprised if it happens. I mean, I think we know who the obvious, most likely candidates would be, Lambert, Chibrikov, guys who've played at the NHL level before. I never say never, I would say. I mean, that's why these guys train in the off season. That's why they, stay in game shape. It's so that they can hit the ice flying instead of the ground running, as I'm torturing this analogy, so that they hit the ice for the start of training camp, and there's a wow factor maybe associated with their game. That's the mindset. That's what the mindset has to be, is that I'm not going to let the organization make a different decision because I'm going to stand out so well. I'm going to stand out so strong. I'm going to be so impressive in my opportunities. No, good for them if they do so. I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath to that extent, but I wouldn't be shocked at the same time. Go ahead and win a job. Again, that's a good problem for any organization to have, is for your young players to break through the glass ceiling when you're not suspecting it to occur.
Well, it all gets started tomorrow, 9:30 at Hockey for All Center. 3 groups, 9:30, 11:45, and 1:30. Drew, switching over to the Bombers, I know you follow them closely. How concerned should the Bombers be? Should fans be? Should we be talking right now about their playoff chances here after a third straight loss and now sitting at 6-7?
Well, as somebody who's got tickets to the Grey Cup, I'm concerned about it. I can tell you that for sure. Look, Chris Strevler is not a starting quarterback. I think that's pretty clear. You can't. The offense is too limited. It's just, and they're not really, beyond that, they're not also structuring the offense to take advantage of his skill set, which of course is running the ball. That is where he excels. He's not a drop back passer. I don't know anybody who can watch his performances over the last couple of years and say, yes, letting him sit in the pocket and go through his reads as a quarterback is a strength of his. Simply not. So unless the offensive package is different for him this week in Ottawa, I'm not sure why the results are going to be any different than they were last week in Hamilton or throughout the second half of the Banjo Bowl a couple weeks ago. There's an element of stubbornness to the Bombers organization and to Mike O'Shea that I think you are seeing be played out right now. The Bombers, for a team that we expect to always be in the Grey Cup, or have been for the last 5 years, are in a real area of concern. Edmonton, with Cody Fajardo, probably mispronouncing that, I apologize, is certainly a threat. BC is certainly a threat. The crossover into the East is not a guarantee anymore. The Bombers need to find a way to get their offense back on track, and I'm not entirely confident that the solution to that is anybody other than the name of Zach Collaros. Now, if I can continue on with my comment here, Remo, Terry Wilson is somebody I'm quite familiar with. Now you're saying, Drew, why are you familiar with the Bombers' third-string quarterback? And that's a question. The reason I am is because Terry Wilson played a lot of his college career at my University of Kentucky. So I've seen Terry Wilson succeed in the biggest stages in some significant games at the University of Kentucky. He went into the University of Florida. He went into the swamp in Florida and won as the quarterback of the University of Kentucky. He won a bowl game against Penn State. I'm trying to think how many years ago now. That would be 4 or 5 years ago, when Kentucky had their first 10-win season in like 35 years. Terry Wilson has won some big football games. The problem with Terry Wilson is he has happy feet in the pocket. If his first read is open, he will be able to hit that first read. He throws a good deep ball. Where he struggles is going through his progressions, standing in the pocket and going from receiver 1 to receiver 2 to receiver 3 to receiver 4. That is not a strength of his. He will get the happy feet. He will try and break the pocket and use his legs before he goes through all of his reads. That can work at the college level. It does not necessarily work at the pro level. So that would be, for everybody who's clamoring for Terry Wilson, who's never seen him play quarterback before, that is what you can sort of expect from him based on his past performances, both at the college level and briefly in his time with the Bombers.
Be interesting to see how it shakes out. Strevler taking first team reps again today. They are playing Saturday in Ottawa. Were playing backup Dustin Crum. Last couple of games, Drew Brown was a full participant yesterday. Is Saturday's game, are we in must-win territory here for the Bombers on Saturday?
I don't think you're in must-win territory. It's it seems apparent that it's not going to be Zach Collaros in the line. It's not taking reps yet today, being Wednesday. I guess he could take reps on Thursday. It's not like he needs a ton of them. He's so familiar with the offense. But if I'm putting on my prognostication hat, I would guess it's probably going to be Strevler behind center, at least to start in Ottawa. I don't think it's a must-win, but you better start winning some games real soon after this week. Can't continue this and then expect that you're all of a sudden going to A, somehow still qualify for the playoffs, and B, flip a switch and be a Grey Cup contender once the playoffs begin. So it's getting late early for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is what I would say. Let me put it this way. I'm a lot closer to the Bombers panic button than I am anything to do with the panic button and the Winnipeg Jets.
Well said, Drew. It's always great having you on the show. Love hearing your opinions. Thank you so much.
I thought we're not going to discuss the fact that we're playing against each other in the Fantasy Baseball Championship this week. That's not part of the interview.
I don't know if people care, but yes, you and I are going head-to-head in the Fantasy Baseball Championship. I think it's going to go down to the wire.
I do think it's going to go down to the wire as well. And if I happen to lose and you show up on air with a broken arm or something, that's strictly a coincidence. I promise you that I had nothing to do with that. For the authorities, if you're tuning in, I am innocent and I had nothing at all to do with any bodily harm coming the way of Michael Remis.
Well, I'm sure we'll be in touch over the weekend. Yes, big fantasy baseball matchup between Drew and I. Look forward to seeing you guys at FanFest on Saturday, 9 a.m. with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, right?
We will be there 9 a.m. on Saturday. Anybody that's coming out to FanFest, and we hope you all are, come check us out. We'll be broadcasting live for 2 hours on Saturday morning.
Hockey season is here, and before you drop the puck on the new year, you got to head down to Winnipeg's #1 hockey superstore for over 50 years, Royal Sports, where you'll have the best selection, best deals, and the best customer service from hockey players who play the game to get you the right fit on all the equipment and needs for the upcoming season. It's only at Royal Sports. In addition to the best selection of sticks and equipment and skates and goalie gear, fans are getting ready for the season at Royal Sports. All the latest Jets merchandise, your Jonathan Taves jerseys and more available. And NFL fans, new NFL gear coming in by the week. So as your team sets out another season, get geared up at Royal Sports, Winnipeg's #1 sports superstore for over 50 years. Give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Man, this is a great time of year. The NFL is back. We've got primetime games. The CFL stretch of the playoffs continues. We got pennant races in baseball. When you're heading out to get together with your gang for the big game, make it Boston Pizza. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. Great prizes to be won on all NFL primetime nights. And of course, the summer menu still kicking around with those delicious cherry cola beef sliders and more. No better place to get together with your gang for the big game than Boston Pizza. And if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. The Ryder Cup countdown is on right now, a couple weeks away from Bethpage Black. Looking forward to having some more Breezy Bend golf reports coming up heading into the event. But in the meantime, as we finish up a beautiful golf season, it's time to think about 2026. And if Breezy Bend or one of the Winnipeg's top private courses is in your future, I'd suggest you get on that now. Holler at Corey Johnson at the clubhouse, 895-7205, or find out more on membership for the 2026 season today online at breezybend.ca. All right, as we continue the show, first things first, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg and Manitoba's favorite local brewery, our friends at Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Pleased to be joined right now by Emily Tuttosi from Souris, Manitoba. You may remember we caught up with her a month ago. She's playing for Team Canada at the Women's Rugby World Cup. Since the tournament began, she's had a huge impact, being named Player of the Match against Scotland. And now Canada has advanced to the semi-final. It's taking place Friday at 1 p.m. on TSN after a dominant win over Australia. And Emily joins me now. Emily, it's been about a month since we last spoke to you on this show. How has the last month been here at the World Cup?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been very good. We came out top of our pool after winning all 3 games, and just this last weekend had beat Australia in a quarterfinal. So we're off to the semis on Friday against New Zealand.
Yeah, pretty incredible run here, outscoring opponents 193 to 31 Canada. What does that say about the way Canada's been playing here at the tournament?
Yeah, I hope what it's saying is that our attack is exciting and unpredictable, and obviously proving a bit of a challenge to defend. And as the tournaments went on, our defense has also become pretty formidable. So hopefully we can show that on Friday.
Yeah, dominant win in the quarterfinal over Australia. What stood out to you about Canada's performance in that match?
Yeah, I think one of the big things for us in that match was just like starting quick. Sometimes we take a minute or two to get into games. Yeah, I think we started quick on attack. We let them have one early, and then we knew we needed to kill the game. And that's what we did from there. We knew that we needed to get up early. It downpoured in the second half, but at that point, thankfully, we were just managing a game instead of chasing it.
And for you personally, huge game against Scotland, scoring twice, named player of the match. How special was that for you? I believe that was in your home stadium where you play in Europe as well.
Yeah, that was very exciting. I love playing at Sandy Park. I've been super privileged to play in the Premiership for years now. So to have a quote unquote home game and be able to score a couple times and help us top our pool was a match to remember.
And being from Souris, Manitoba, what's it been like overall representing your hometown and Canada on one of the biggest stages in the world for rugby?
Yeah, it's always a privilege. And actually at that Sandy Park game, we had some other Manitobans in the crowd, which was super special. And now some of my family's here in the tournament. But no, I take it very seriously that I get to represent our town. Because I think there was some athletes before me that I saw play some age grade or provincial or age grade national. And they were kind of the first steps of, oh, rugby can go further than just school. So now to get to be on the world stage is a real privilege, but I do hope that people can see that it can be possible.
You mentioned you got some family coming in now, the semifinal on Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time on TSN. What's the support been like overall in the tournament for Canada throughout all your matches?
The support's been incredible. We feel it from online. We feel it from people's friends and family that have come here. A lot of us have some friends over here now from playing in the Premiership, which is special to have them be at the games. And it's also been cool, even just in the streets, people will see us and be like, oh, we're actually Canadian. We've lived over here a while. So the Canadian connection and support is everywhere. And it really does push you through a long tournament like this.
And again, big match, semifinal, final trip to the finals on the line, but big opponent against New Zealand. How are you guys approaching this upcoming match with a big final berth on the line?
Yeah, I think we are approaching it similar to all the other matches, trying to focus on us and not necessarily what the match means. We all know it's do or die to get to that final, but we also know that we play the best rugby when we're just being us and not focusing on what's at stake necessarily. And I think a lot of us have been to some World Cups before, and we understood the heartbreak of last World Cup semifinals. So I think we all are probably also a little more prepared in terms of what being at a World Cup is like. And I'm hoping that we take that like maturity and that experience in our squad to also put us on a positive foot going into the semi this weekend.
Yeah, how much more confidence can you have against a tough opponent like that, knowing that you've been had success against them before, winning earlier 22-19 just last year?
Yeah, and I think that's huge. It's kind of funny sometimes this tournament we've seen online some people calling us like the dark horse or the maybe, and now dark horse is crossed out and we're contenders. But we know that we've been ranked second for a couple years now. We know that we've beat this team. Last time we played them, we tied against them. So it's not out of the cards that we deserve to be where we are in this tournament. And I think we've all taken a lot of confidence in that. We've built a lot of evidence that we should be in the game that we're in.
And what can you say about some of your teammates? Big milestones being hit. Karen Paquin, 50th cap in the semi. Delaka Menon moving up the all-time list as well. How inspiring is it for you to share the field with players achieving such great milestones?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Earlier in the tournament, we celebrated Tyson Buchanan becoming the most capped Canadian rugby player of all time. And Karen Paquin is an absolute legend in sevens and 15. So to see her getting 50 after she had stepped back for a bit of time away is absolutely incredible. Delika Menon, like an absolute stalwart in the front row, takes on the tight head prop with such grace and grit, and to see her become second of all time is also pretty incredible. I started playing with Delika back in university, so I've seen all the work that goes into the players she is on the pitch. So to celebrate milestones and play alongside is special because they don't come along all the time.
When we're at a tournament like this that we've been away for a month now, what's the schedule been like for you as far as training? How much recovery is involved in between matches as well?
Yeah, and the World Cup's been a month, but this group's actually been together closer to kind of that 6.5 week mark, just in the lead up as well. Just the way geography works. Once you're together, it's easier to stay together. But schedule kind of remains the same. We will have kind of 2 big training days each week, and then we have our captain's run and like other kind of walking sessions on other days alongside that. But recovery is almost just as important, to be putting your body on the line against world-class teams week in, week out. So I think our staff does a great job of laying the schedule out for us, because I think it's also recovering physically, but also managing people's different mental energies as well. It can be a lot to be with the same group of people for so long, moving place to place. And I think people are managing really well, and everyone's in good headspace going into a big week.
Yeah, any time for personal entertainment, sightseeing when you're in London, or is it all work here?
We typically will get one full day off. Our other day off has kind of been a travel day this tournament. But even that, like, people just have to know their body and what they need. And if you shouldn't be on feet necessarily, maybe people are taking a more conservative approach to our days off. But no, it's good. We have seen some stuff in the cities we're in. A lot of coffee girls on this team. So trying different coffees, different treats, like seeing kind of different city centers. And we also are good at internally just having a laugh, like playing games, different skits, different stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately, maybe you don't get to see as much as you want at those cities, but we all know what we're here for, and that's to try and win a World Cup.
Yeah, would the win be a highlight for you in your career? Advancing to the World Cup final?
Yeah, I think so. I think the 2014 team that made it to the final and unfortunately lost in the final, that was huge for Canadian women's rugby, or Canadian rugby in general. And then the Olympics in 2016 was another like boom when they got bronze. And I think making it to that final would just be another big stamp on why Canadians rugby, and especially Canadian women's rugby, is a powerhouse globally for sevens and 15s. So yeah, winning this match would mean a lot, especially as I mentioned before, after the disappointment of last World Cup coming so close and falling short. I think we've all kind of taken that chip on our shoulder with us this whole last cycle.
Yeah, absolutely dominant performance for Canada leading up to Friday's semifinal. I think the final's Saturday. Is it Saturday? Oh
yeah,
my God, back to potential back to back. So make sure you check your TV listings there. For TSN. You mentioned inspiring young women, in Manitoba for playing. Some people might see you playing at on this world stage. What would you say to them about giving rugby a try?
I'd say what's the worst that can happen? I've seen firsthand. I do a lot of coaching as well as playing, and I've seen firsthand girls and women and moms and friends and whoever else pick up a rugby ball and absolutely love it. You don't have to want to be at a World Cup for rugby to have a really huge and special part in your life. So yeah, I guess the big thing I'd say is just say yes, give it a try. What's the absolute worst that can happen?
It seems like more and more this team turning heads, either, as you mentioned, sevens or the full squad, and more people taking notice about what a powerhouse Canada is at rugby.
Yeah, and to me, that's huge. I think we've known that there's been talent and potential, and especially you can see the U Sport pathway providing a lot of athletes and trying to build up our domestic play interprovincially. And I think that and the choices some girls have made to go and play overseas to try and keep up in this time where maybe some countries have contracts and others don't. I think all of this just leads to how adaptable and versatile Canadian women and Canadian rugby is. And that's also in part to our staff that help us see the game in such a dynamic way. But yeah, I hope that people see also when they look at our squad that there's not only one way to get there and there's not only one way to stay there. You can live the life you want to live and be a rugby player at the same time.
Awesome. Well, Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's been awesome chatting with you. I can't wait until Friday, 1 p.m. We'll be following along on TSN. Do you have any message to fans who might be watching and cheering you guys on?
No, just thanks very much. We hear you, we see you, we love you, and we hope to do you proud.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emily. Best of luck in the semifinal on Friday.
Thank you very kindly.
That was a great conversation with Emily Tuttosi, Team Canada, Rugby World Cup, Friday, 1 p.m. Big match against New Zealand. Hopefully they can play in the final Saturday, back-to-back there. So we will be watching. Appreciate Braden and the team at Team Canada Rugby setting that one up for us. We haven't touched on a lot of NFL today, but pleased to be joined right now by Thomas Tipple of Fantasy Points. As we've seen, this is a lot of injuries this week. He's hopping in to break it all down. Follow him on X at L Nostradamus. Thomas, what's going on? Thanks so much for taking the time to hop in with me here today.
Of course, happy to be here, as always, every week. Wouldn't miss it.
Well, Thomas, injury bug hitting the quarterback position. Joe Burrow down, Justin Fields down, J.J. McCarthy down. Which team do you think is going to be hurt the most here by having to go to the backup, and which team will be able to weather the storm?
Man, this is where real football and fantasy football kind of cross paths, because I don't pay as much attention to the real NFL in terms of who's weathering the storm. I can tell you, however, who's going to weather the storm for fantasy football purposes. And sure, I like the Bengals to be able to do that with Jake Browning. He was pretty good for them in 2023 when he was playing, and that's pretty important. The points per game in that period of time, 7 full games of that stretch, in full games, not games where he had just come in, etc., or had to leave himself. Joe Mixon at the time had 18.1 fantasy points per game on an 18 expected. Jamar Chase had 13.4 fantasy points per game, 11.5 expected. T. Higgins actually outscored Jamar Chase at the time with 15.7 fantasy points per game, but only on 11.7 expected. That means touchdowns were a thing. Keeping in mind, same play caller obviously was Zach Taylor, but the offense was still at a 3.1 pass rate over expected. Passing the ball more than league average in situations that the league is running the ball. So this offense is just explosive. What this does signal to me, however, is the tight end usage might drop here in Cincinnati. 27% of their targets have been to the tight end. I expect a lot more of that to Chase Brown, backup quarterback, dump offs at 12% for Chase Brown. I think he can really excel. And then, of course, I not panic selling on Jamar Chase, but if you get some offers out there for T. Higgins, I would be accepting. So there's one.
Well, one team that I find interesting is Minnesota. It seems like over the last couple of years, whoever they've brought in, Nick Mullins and, who was it before going to the playoffs? They're able to put up yardage. What do you expect from Carson Wentz throwing to a guy like Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson?
Well, the funny thing is about the Vikings and this offense with J.J. McCarthy, I think he'll be fine. I mean, it's still Carson Wentz. Like, we know what Carson Wentz is, but he is an NFL veteran. He fits the KOC kind of system with the, middle of the field, intermediate routes, a lot of in breakers. But the offense just looked out of sync in week 1 with Chicago with J.J. McCarthy until that second half where just big game J.J. took over. But I think the offensive line is in trouble in Minnesota. Now, they did invest quite a bit into that offensive line, but the Falcons had a pass rate better than they had in 6 years. I think they have 6 sacks. This is the best pass rush the Falcons have had in, probably since their Super Bowl run. And they just swarmed the Vikings. So I am still concerned with Carson Wentz running this offense. Now, he did hyper target tight ends in his time in Philly, and the Vikings are targeting tight ends 21% of the time through 2 games, 21% of the running backs, but Aaron Jones on IR, that could uptick the tight ends in Minnesota. But TJ Hawkinson, I call him TJ Blockinson just because every time I'm watching this team, I always find him blocking more than he is producing for my fantasy football teams. I avoided Hawkinson at all costs this year, but I think the guys like Jefferson could still be fine. I just think his upside might be capped. I mean, if you're in a redraft league, it might benefit you to start shopping Justin Jefferson around for the Drake Londons of the world, the Roma Dunze with a little bit of a plus on top. There are just some other ways that I would go. The upside may not be there for a while. And again, I don't even think this is a J.J. McCarthy high ankle sprain. I think this is a J.J. McCarthy sit down and settle down and we'll come back to you type situation. So he had a baby on Thursday Night Football. Not on Thursday Night Football, just before. He didn't. I don't know why coaches do this in the NFL, but they do not play their guys in the preseason. I don't know when this started, but it is a catastrophe. And please change this. JJ McCarthy needed to play more in the preseason, and it's affected them. So I am concerned about the Vikings. Very excited for somebody like Jordan Mason getting all of the work, especially with them wanting to establish that run a little bit more. Hopefully, the offensive line can get there. Same thing, kind of deal with Washington. I am very much concerned with Daniels. Now he's hurt, likely to miss this week. We have some injury folks on our staff, and there is some risk with playing through this and how it can end up hurting them, or hurting it farther, I should say. So there is definitely some risk all around the league. I will say, do not panic. Play Garrett Wilson with the Jets. I think that he'll be okay. I think he'll be just fine, even though Justin Fields is out with a concussion.
Speaking of quarterbacks, we saw on Monday Night Football, the second game, Justin Herbert. Has he and the Chargers taken a step forward to be one of the elite offensive teams? And seems like they're able to support the production for the 3 receivers there. Quentin Johnson, he learned how to catch the football. Ladd McConkey, looking like a stud again, and Keenan Allen, just a veteran, catching everything that's thrown to him. The Chargers look like they could overtake the Chiefs, who've really struggled here, starting 0-2.
Yeah, I've had the Chargers over the Chiefs this year. I have them winning the division. This is year 3 of Harbaugh, and anyone that has followed Jim's career knows by year 3, his teams are turned around. Year 1 was a bit rough. Last year, big strides. I believe there are at least +4 in the win category, and I think he's going to. I think they're likely going to be the 2 seed in the AFC behind Buffalo, and I don't know if Quentin Johnson has learned how to catch. I think that would be a stretch because that dude has hands meant for a bricklayer, but he definitely is in a right spot with Greg Roman. Now, one thing that is interesting with Greg Roman and his history as an offensive coordinator, I watched him. Trust me, I feel like I am an expert on Greg Roman with what he did in Baltimore. The tight end usage with the Chargers is staggering at only 7% use of the tight ends and an only 12% target distribution to running backs. It is all consolidated in the wide receivers. Like you said, Quentin Johnson is kind of playing that tight end role in the red zone, running the on-play action routes where he is running the underneaths into the coverage to the wide open where you would have seen the Isaiah Likely running last season. I really like this offense in general. Keenan Allen was not bad last year. I know everyone said so. It was a Bears issue. He rated very well in every single individual route metric that we had, yards per route run, targets per route run. He's definitely able to sustain this. The way Jim Harbaugh talks about Justin Herbert is every day he says he wakes up and it's about not getting Justin Herbert to the Hall of Fame. So I'm kind of all in on this Chargers. I was down on Justin Herbert and their pass rate over expected from last year. Every time a running back got hurt, their pass rate went up. Now they're also not running the ball yet. And again, I've said this on the Dynasty Points podcast last night. I said it on the 2 Dynasty Points podcasts last week. My weekly podcast, I said the offensive line play has been woeful in the NFL as of late, and it still terrible. So there's some of that in play. Same with the Vikings. Darisaw not playing is absolutely killing them. Ryan Kelly might miss again. It's going to really hurt them. So I'm in on these Chargers. I think the Ladd McConkey ceiling is going to be a little bit limited with Keenan Allen around, something that we should have probably taken a little bit more seriously in the offseason with his ADP and his draft spot. But I'm not selling. I'm not worried. I'm not panicked. I think this is going to be a high-powered offense, and they've got a little bit of a head start here now on Kansas City being 1 game up on them in a head-to-head 2-0 in the division. They look like a lock to me right now. But again, they just lost Khalil Mack. This is still the Chargers. The phrase Chargers go to Chargers exists for a reason. And this is a team that I think has all the pieces, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, Navarro Bowman is their linebackers coach, if I'm not mistaken. And boy, do they fly around on defense. Obviously, Bowman played with Harbaugh in San Francisco in those Kaepernick seasons. So I'm excited. I'm here. I'm generally a Greg Roman hater to the 10th degree, but I'll say the last 2 games are the best 2 games I have ever seen Greg Roman call a passing attack since I've been watching him since he was in San Francisco. Even with Tyrod Taylor.
Tom, tomorrow night, Thursday night football kicks off week 3. The Bills at Miami. Miami looks like a total train wreck this season. Are they the team this year when you see you have a fantasy player going up against them, you're just salivating at all the points that they're going to put up? I'm looking at the odds right now. Buffalo favored by 12.5. This could be pretty ugly here tomorrow night.
The problem with the Miami Dolphins is that they played the New England Patriots, and that's what made their offense look good. Like, I'm amazed that the New England Patriots defense might be the only defense in the NFL worse than Miami's. It's terrible. Obviously, Tyreek Hill finally produced here, and so did Waddle, but I think it is a little bit fraudulent. Tyreek Hill had just his 4th 100-yard game since the start of last season. 3 of those games have come over his last 7. However, the peripheral usage, not good. In week 2, he didn't spend any time in the blue medical tent. That's pretty good. Every time I look at that tent, It's one of the Dolphins wide receivers. But he saw just a 19.4% target share and a 21.9% target share over the first 2 games. That's compared to a 31.1% in 2023, where he averaged 23.6 fantasy points per game, or 20.2% when he averaged just 14.4 in 2024. He's been out targeted by Devon Achane 14-13, who has almost run almost as many yards after the catch as Hill does in total yards. So the offense just isn't what people remember when Mike McDaniel first got there. And I think I'm on my way out with Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek in this offense. I'm fading Miami completely. Everyone but Devon for the most part, every single week. And if somehow I'm wrong on this, I will rest my head easily, knowing that I made the right process play here. I don't want a piece of the Dolphins. Granted, Tua missed Tyreek wide open on the game-winning drive. That would have maybe changed his narrative a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, the Tua is one hit away from dinner at the Lindros house, and I don't want to watch or rely on a quarterback that's been in, pre-death rigor mortis on primetime television multiple times. And this offensive line, terrible. I think the head coach is out of his depth. I'm full fading this team completely.
We'll have to see tomorrow night if it continues. Thomas, Thomas comes to us from Fantasy Points when we need fantasy or betting advice. We're choosing Fantasy Points. With the Fantasy Points data suite, they have the best research tool in the world. Use code WST10 to sign up and dominate your league. Thomas, what can we find out there this Wednesday as we're gearing up for week 3?
Well, I can tell you that Quinshon Judkins looked phenomenal in the backfield with a 50% carry share. He totaled a 6.1 yard per carry. He also had 3 receptions. He was one of my favorite backs. I love Quinshon Judkins. I'm definitely looking forward to him in week 3. I just want to address some rookie stuff here in week 2 on a Wednesday, Michael, if you'll let me.
Sure.
We have this thing on Dynasty Points that my co-host, Jacob Sanderson, also a Winnipegger himself, we actually met through a slow pitch team at Little Mountain, and here we are, him with Underdog Fantasy, myself with Fantasy Points. We like to say that you shouldn't start panicking about a rookies until you start craving a pumpkin spice latte. And what that means is, unless you're an absolute sicko, like he said last night, where you are craving those in early September, let's let Halloween set in first off. But if you're rolling up into your Starbucks and you are craving a pumpkin spice latte and your favorite rookie has been struggling and looks like dog water, then maybe it's time to start panicking. But early in the season, it takes a long time for a lot of, old curmudgeon-y coaches to get out of these rookies got to earn it. And eventually they start playing their elite players. Now, obviously, the top of the top, the Tet McMillans, the Emekas, the Genties, all these guys are playing an extreme amount. And last year it was Bowers right out of the gates. But remember, it took Ladd a little bit of time. It took Brian Thomas Jr. a little bit of time. I mean, we're still waiting on Marvin Harrison Jr., but that's a whole other story. These guys can take time. It is the National Football League. This is not easy. Even Cam Ward himself, really struggled in week 1, showed some stuff in week 2. It takes time. Relax. Take a breath. Do not look to sell. Do not give up on these guys in week 2, because it's been proven that these young guys, these rookies, they are league winners at the end of the year. Not all of them are going to hit, but the ones that do, those are the ones that end up helping you win leagues. I'm looking at the chat. T-Will, you know better. Do not drop Hampton, obviously. But let's just remember that these are players coming from college into one of the most complex sports that you can be playing at a national level. It is difficult. And of course, we are again dealing with boomer-esque coaches. Like, look at Sean Payton. How long are we going to have to wait for the clearly most explosive player on the Denver Broncos and RJ Harvey to finally start getting the proper usage that we know of? When he was being drafted, Sean Payton likened to people like Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, yes, only had one touch, I believe, in his second game, and he never really had more than not one touch, but one carry. But his receptions were insane. It was like 5, 6, 7, a 10 in the first 4 or 5 games. When are we going to get that usage? When Sean Payton's boomerism finally washes off and goes, oh, we need to win games now. I'm more inclined to buy these rookies more than to sell them because, again, they have the biggest game impact when finally some of these dusty veterans kind of get put out to pasture by week 7 or 8 when their hamstrings finally fall off the bone.
Rookies, you got to see him have more of an impact, but sometimes it takes a while. Thomas, great having you on. Appreciate all your insight. Catch him on X, one of the best handles. It took me a while to understand. Maybe when you said it out loud, I was like, oh, that's what it is, at El Nostra Thomas. I didn't get that just reading it, but when you came on here and said it, I was like, oh, I'm dumb.
I earned it in a Discord that I was in, which you can get into the Fantasy Points Discord where I live. That is where I am at 24/7 answering fantasy questions. You can get at me pretty much 24/7. I'm around all the time. I got it because people were arguing about Jameson Williams at one point. I said, guys, why buy him in the 5th round? You're going to get him cheaper later. And the next day he was suspended and he ended up dropping into the 8th and 9th round, thus coining El Nostra. And so I took that and I ran. So just, having some fun on this nightmare that is social media in 2025. We have to have a little bit of fun out there, and you can win yourself some money. Don't sleep on fantasypoints.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please DM me. I am telling you, I will get back to you no matter what. So find me. Yeah. ELNOS RA Thomas, El Nostra Thomas, all social media. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Thomas Tipple, Winnipegger, working with Fantasy Points. I'm learning all about all these other Winnipeggers in the fantasy football industry. So great for him. Take the time to hop on. Let's bring in Connor Hrabchak. Connor, we're waiting on the Jets groupings for the training camp, and they're going to make us wait more. I'm anticipating right after I hit stop, they will be on. Isn't that right, Connor?
That's the time. We always know it. That's when the big news will drop. No, but I do have a question for Thomas, and we'll have to ask him next week. What if you're the type of person that starts craving pumpkin drinks in like late August, early September? Like, then I'm already panicking on rookies because I'm that type of person. I got a pumpkin drink yesterday, my free drink from Starbucks. Man, I love pumpkin stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if that's sound advice for someone like me who will be panicking in week 1 by the time I'm craving a pumpkin drink, which is very early in the season.
There you go. Connor, we did have the Bombers putting out their injury report as we're on quarterback watch here. And here it is. Micah Vanderpool practiced in full. His injury, not injury related. Logan in full, not injury related. Zach Claris, head injury, limited practice 1 and practice 2. They still have a third practice, and then they'll let you know the game status. Jareth Stearns, shoulder, limited yesterday and today. Jamal Parker, he was limited yesterday, practiced in full today. And Michael Griffin with a knee injury did not practice yesterday or today. I guess with Claris being limited, maybe there's still a chance there could be a full practice and they toss him in. I guess we'll have to wait and see tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think a storyline that I brought up yesterday that I think is going to fly under the radar because of the quarterback situation is Jamal Parker. He started the season at safety and struggled in that spot. The Bombers were giving up a ton of explosive plays. He played a game at corner, the game he got hurt in, and that was probably his best game of the season. So when he's healthy and ready to go, is it going to be DeMario Houston and Jamal Parker at the corners with Nichols and Holm at halfback and then Cam Allen at safety? How do the Bombers kind of shift around their secondary when Jamal Parker is back? because he played safety and albeit struggling for certain games in that stint, when he moved to corner, kind of his more natural position, he looked a lot better. So it's going to be interesting to see with a full practice. It looks like he's trending to play. Is he going to take over for Dexter Lawson opposite Demario Houston? Is he going to be just worked in on obvious passing downs? Where is he going to play in the secondary? That's a storyline that I'm watching for. And again, I think it's going to fly under the radar because of the obvious quarterback injury problems and turnovers and all of those things.
So we'll still be on practice watch tomorrow, wondering if anything changes ahead of Saturday's game in Ottawa. On our NHL training camp starting up this week, the Jets on the ice tomorrow at 9:30, and 2 other skates. We'll hear from the GM. We'll hear from Kyle Connor. Around the league, a lot of other players speaking to the media. Did you see this quote from Brad Marchand about his contract negotiations? The Panthers returning a lot of players, keeping him, Marchand, Aaron Ekblad, and there was one other big one. Was it Reinhardt? Did he get the big or?
It's Bennett.
It was Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett retaining all their guys that he thought, how are they going to retain all of them? This is what Brad Marchand had to say. Call it a spade a spade. If we were in a non-tax state, it wouldn't have worked out probably for 2 guys. That's him, Bennett, and Ekblad. 2 guys probably would have been leaving in that situation. So it's a benefit that this team has. We were able to utilize and make work. Is Brad Marchand just being the ultimate troll here, or is he onto something?
He's trolling, right? I gotta see this clip and see what his body language and tone is, because just reading that quote and you tell me it's Brad Marchand, I think he's joking. I think he's just call a spade a spade. It's because we're in a tax-free state. He's playing into it, I think.
Brad Marchand has become pretty funny. I think he really changed his image. Used to hate him, think he was a rat for all of the slew footing. But yeah, I thought his personality had a bit of a coming out party in the last year. Maybe he's always been that way. Maybe there's more of a spotlight because he was on Team Canada, because he was on a team that won the Stanley Cup. But that's kind of funny from Brad Marchand. I know there's people in chat who harp on that all the time. Every team has their own advantages and disadvantages about signing there that you're going to have to work around. I did see a note, from the player injuries. There's already some this early in trading camp, and Adrian Data reporting for Colorado. Mackenzie Blackwood, he is week to week with a lower body injury, being ready for the season opener in question, and that was a player that they traded for last year and signed him to an extension right away. That'd certainly be a blow for Colorado, but I think that we've learned that, missing the start of the season is okay, but it's really important to be 100% healthy in the playoffs.
Yeah, a player who's week to week to start training camp, maybe starting next season, that would be a concern for their, opening night status. The preseason and camp are so long under this current CBA that I don't think Mackenzie Blackwood, if he's being labeled as week to week, is under any threat to miss significant time once the regular season gets going, because we are weeks away from the actual start of the regular season. So I know the Colorado Avalanche, they play opening night of the NHL season on the road against the LA Kings. And the LA Kings are another team that's gone under, a bit of an injury bug, at least before camp, as they tweeted out the other day that Corey Perry got injured during a training skate on Friday, September 12th, underwent knee surgery and is out 6 to 8 weeks. So one of the players that the Kings went and got in free agency, Corey Perry, 6 to 8 weeks, he'll definitely be missing actual game action in the regular season. But we're still a ways away from the actual start of the regular season. So hearing players, come in maybe not 100% healthy with a little bit of an injury, the teams are going to be very, very cautious through this lengthy preseason and training camp.
Yeah, one player to keep an eye on. We haven't talked a lot about him in Colorado. Marty Necas, they traded Mikko Rantanen for him. He's entering the final year of his deal. Couldn't sign long-term in Carolina. We'll figure out how to make it work in Colorado. We did have a signing today. Wasn't the big one like that we've talking about with Connor McDavid or
right.
Kyle Connor. Mikael Backlund 2-year extension. The captain of Calgary, AAV $3.25 million. Had 32 points last year in 76 games, 15 goals, 17 assists. Age 36, a bit older, but kind of a heart and soul player, similar to how Adam Lowry is viewed here. I wonder if that would be, although this is kind of a different player, different age, but interesting signing there around the league with Calgary locking up their captain. I think it was no surprise for anyone in Calgary.
Yeah, no surprise there. And I don't think it's a direct comparison in terms of if you're looking at, he is a defensive center, a veteran, a captain. He's 36, so a little bit older. I've long thought that this next Adam Lowry contract is going to come in at around 4x4, maybe $4.5 million in the AAV, somewhere in that range. So I think Adam Lowry's contract, if you're looking to compare it, is going to come in a little bit higher than this one, but definitely not a surprise. The market is not set for Kirill Kaprizov and Connor McDavid and Kyle Connor after this signing of Mikael Backlund, but still an interesting signing and a good one for Calgary, getting their captain for a couple more years.
Yeah, that's actually, interestingly enough, Adam Lowry's current AAV at $3.25 million. I imagine he'll be getting a raise here on his next deal. Not a lot of talk here about the Lowry contract, kind of just waiting for him to get back on the ice. We've seen him skating on his own in solitary confinement, Connor, as he put it. So we'll see where he is tomorrow when training camps open. Time to look at the lines here. Cool Bet, place where we're going to look at those as I bring in. Let me turn my camera on here on this screen anyway. But here we have CFL, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They are, has the line moved? They're 2.5-point underdogs in Ottawa as maybe the quarterback situation comes a bit more clear. Hamilton, 5.5-point favorites, hosting Edmonton. How about Calgary? 5-point favorites against BC. That get bigger, and Montreal is 7-point favorite going into Toronto. I guess questions about Toronto's quarterback situation starting Jarrett Daigie. What do you think of the latest on the CFL lines?
So the Montreal-Toronto game, since Jeff Hamilton and I did CFL 110 yesterday, has moved 3 points. I believe it was Montreal minus 3.5 as a road favorite. And it was confirmed that Jarrett Daigie was going to be getting the start for the Argonauts. So you saw some major line movement there as McLeod Bethel-Thompson is coming off his hot performance against Saskatchewan. They're 7-point road favorites. That's really interesting. The BC Calgary game hasn't moved, or it has moved half a point. Calgary was 4.5-point favorites. Now it's 5. The Winnipeg one, obviously, the other way, with Ottawa becoming a bigger favorite, and then Hamilton. That one's still the same. But as for my read on these games, I don't mind Toronto. Not to win, but to cover a 7-point spread, even with Jarrett Daigie. I think Ryan Dinwiddie is going to have his team playing desperate and ready to go. Calgary has been dynamite off a bye. I think them -5 against BC, and that spotty defense is a good spot. I said it earlier in the show. I'll say it again. I think whether it's Chris Strevler or Zach Collaros, I think the Bombers can and should win this game against Ottawa. So +2.5, not bad there. And then Hamilton -5.5 against Edmonton. I do think that Edmonton Elks covered that spread. What do you think, Remo?
I don't know. Edmonton can be up in the air. I think Fajardo's kept it close. That's the biggest total, so they're expecting a lot of points. I have to put my final picks in. I think I'd probably lean Hamilton here, West team going east, but Edmonton, they've really impressed, and they're trying to push towards the playoffs if they can make it. The futures, the Bombers, the lowest they've been all year, +2,000. If you think they've got a shot, maybe they can figure out this turnover issue. You just got to get one, got to get hot in the playoffs. Certainly capable of that. Saskatchewan, the Grey Cup favorite, +275. Baseball, Blue Jays, they're in action tonight. Gaussman on the hill, -130. Favorites, they're looking towards clinching. We're already seeing teams clinch a playoff berth. Chicago Cubs, for the first time since 2020, did just that with their win over the Pirates. I don't know, in the last hour or so. The hockey odds, Connor, the futures out time. Oh my God, these are game one. I thought they were preseason.
Game one.
Game 1 lines.
They will have those, I think.
Game lines. Well,
pretty sure.
I mean, the Kings, you mentioned that Kings Colorado game. The Kings are minus 105 favorites. Who knows if Mackenzie Blackwood will suit up for Colorado. But the futures, as the day before training camp, here are the Winnipeg Jets plus 2,000 to win the cup. That's 20-1. And if you think they're going to make the playoffs, yes or no, the Winnipeg Jets, hey, the odds makers seem to be sure the Jets will be in there minus 286 to make the playoffs. That's pretty good. And you're looking at winning the division. The Central, Dallas, the favorite, plus 200. Colorado, plus 210. The Jets just behind, plus 600. I think, in a couple of years, when you look back on last season, everything seemed to go perfect for them, winning the President's Trophy, winning the division. What a historic season it was. But hey, starting fresh, starting tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like you said it off the top. It's like a Christmas feeling. It's training camp eve. We're still waiting on the groups here to see who's skating tomorrow in which group. The first group is 9:30, and then I believe it's 11:30, and then 1:30. Roughly, those are the times that the three different groups will be skating. So I'm super pumped to get out to Hockey for All Center. Winnipeg Jets hockey, line combinations. I'm fired up, Remo.
Yeah, line combinations, groups. Yeah. We went through some of the awards. We're going to go through, player points throughout, leading up to the start of the season. I do enjoy looking at these, useful for fantasy drafts. You have Josh Morrissey over under 65.5 points. Mm-hmm. And then here we talk a lot of talk in chat about Nikolai Ehlers. And here, let me get to fan feedback brought to you by Fans First. Your best option for buying and selling tickets with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Certainly the best place. If you have a pair of tickets, you're looking to get rid of them, I can tell you as someone who's had to buy or sell tickets on there, it's utilizing Fans First. So user-friendly, the customer service great, and you're getting paid the next day right after the game. People have been buying and selling Bomber tickets as every game's been sold out this year, but I know with Jets preseason starting up on Sunday, they'll be busy on there. And here was I forget who had this comment, but a lot of talk about replacing Nikolai Ehlers' production. And here was the comment: Perfetti, Vlad, and Ehlers had 151 combined points last season. It's not unreasonable to assume that Perfetti, Taves, and Nyquist can put together 50 points each to match the production. Keith Lilly says Ehlers' speed will be the hardest thing to replace, but there will be less turnovers. A lot of that being discussed in chat. Blake here says the good news is that Ehlers was underutilized, so replacing him is a bit easier. And PDJ NYC saying Ehlers hasn't created a hole in the lineup that can't be overcome by marginally better team play and internal growth. So everyone, that seems to be a player, Connor. You bring them up, everyone has got an opinion, and we will officially turn the page on the Ehlers era tomorrow and see who steps in. And as fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling tickets by fans for fans with no fees. And we still have the Gold Eyes contest running for double feature movie night. Final chance to get in, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. They're showing 2 movies on Saturday: Princess Bride and what was the other one? Princess Bride. I have it here. And Raiders of the Lost Ark on their giant HD video board. The gates open at 5:30. Bring blankets, lawn chairs. You can relax on the field or watch from the stands. They'll have yard games, trivia, and prize raffles to keep the fun going between films. They'll have popcorn, candy, burgers, hot dogs, soft drinks. Of course, adult beverages. Tickets just $10 and can be purchased at goldeyes.com/movie. We do have a 4-pack on our website, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Connor, it is time for Assiniboia Downs picks. I had a big winner yesterday. I'm
Big
catching
win.
up to Huss. I had a $1 trifecta on race 7, 356. My $1 bet, so 6 ways. Or sorry, my $1 bet, yes, which was $6 total because each combination won. It was a big hit for me. Not the biggest of the year, but up there, 83.45 on my $6 total bet. Hustler said that he won. I think he lost $4, so he won 36. So he was -4. He bet double for missing on Monday. He's going to put his picks in. So here are my selections for tonight. I'm very excited for the race night. I was pretty down because I thought I lost, but I did not look at race 7. Here we go, Connor, as Hustler and I battle. I'm on race 2. I got 2, 3, 5 trifecta box. Shanka, Dopolis, Pool, or Coleboy, and Big Walk. I got race 7, horse 5 to win. It's a fluke. But that is that's the AI smart pick. It's a fluke. Had to go with that one. Race 6, I got 1, 2, 3 trifecta box XL, falsely accused, and Lansdowne. And race 5, I have a 2-5 exacta box mini, glazed donut, and Skylar's Fire. Hustler's got Crusher Royale on race 3 to win. On race 3 to win. He's got race 4, Tipsy at the Bar to win. And he's also got a 4, 5, 6 trifecta box, Destined to Dance, Bossa Dusu, and yes, Tipsy at the Bar. How much does he have here? He's got race 6, exacta box 3, 7. Who's on that one? Hustler's got 3. Burn Jakey Burn, or sorry, Lansdowne. I had that one, and Rhodesia. And race 7, he's got horse 1 to win. Westover. Oh, the long shot, 30 to 1. So Hustler trying to hit the lottery there with that 30 to 1 winner on race 7. Connor, big plans for tonight here. Thursday night football tomorrow.
Yeah.
Friday night football. The Blue Jays are in action. What's got your eye here tonight on a Wednesday?
Yeah, I'll be watching the Jays. Gosman through the complete game shutout his last time out. So going up against the Rays, that should be a good one. Hoping for no spotty fan interference calls and reviews like there was last night in the Jays game. But I'll be watching that. Tomorrow's training camp. Tomorrow's Thursday night football. And we've got training camp all weekend. Fan Fest Saturday. A Winnipeg Jets game preseason Sunday at 4 o'clock here in Winnipeg at Canada Life Center. This is the quiet night before the chaos begins over the next 4 days, Remo. So I'm going to sit back, relax, watch some Blue Jays baseball, and get ready for the weekend coming up here. What about you?
Yeah, everyone's got their final, dentist appointments lined up, golf games, get a haircut, everything happening before training camp and the real, I don't want to say real work, but the real season gets underway. I can't wait. Fantasy drafts just around the corner, preseason hockey, line combinations, all that. Yeah, tonight. Well, we're gonna be live tomorrow at Hockey for All Center, set up doing the show. So I will be organizing everything meticulously. I've got it all in bags, not labeled.
Nice.
Loading up my cars so I can just get down there quick and be there. I don't know if I'll be there for 9:30 when the first group gets on the ice. I imagine there will be some fans in attendance taking it all in. Good day to go. And yeah, I'll be getting all my stuff together and maybe pouring over my fantasy football lineup. Were you up at 2:30 a.m. today making some free agent pickups? Was that only last week?
No, so I put a hefty fab number on Jake Browning because in the media league, I lost Joe Burrow. But I got outbid by Taylor Allen. I think I put in somewhere in the mid 70s in like fab budget, and Taylor put $88. We are in a super flex, so it makes sense. Like looking back on it, I should have put 100 on Jake Browning because now I don't have a third quarterback. I should have, just because. But But whatever, I'm 2-0, first in points for in the league. And Joe Burrow didn't help me the first 2 weeks anyways, in terms of fantasy football. So, 2-0, first in the league, first in points for, feeling good in the media league. But job's not done, Remo. Job's not done.
You have Herbert and Stafford.
But your bye weeks will come around. Yeah.
I guess you have Aaron Jones also. You could throw in Debo. I guess bye weeks come and it screws everything up. I was starting like Aiden O'Connell last year at quarterback in this league. I was starting such bottom of the barrel quarterback. So injuries happen to everyone. Bye weeks happen. It throws chaos into all of it. Well, what a show it's been. What a couple days it's been for me hosting. Thank you, Connor, for participating. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in. This has been so much fun. Thank you to our guests, Shayna Goldman, Drew Mindell, Emily Tuttosi, Thomas Tipple. And shout out to the sponsors making this happen: HSC Home Lottery, Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Fans First, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend, Cinnaboy Downs, and of course, Cool Bet. So for Connor Hrabchak, for Hustler, I'm Michael Remis. Can't wait to be at the rink tomorrow. Make sure you're tuning in for all the line rushes, all the groups discussion, and Bomber updates as well. Thank you again, everyone. I'll send you over to Edmonton Sports Talk where they're freaking out over Connor McDavid. Bye-bye.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.